Well, good evening to all of you joining us. Good evening to all of you joining us here on the Marcia Weekes Show. I trust you are hearing me a-okay. I just want to double check, make sure I have everything set up here. I had a little bit of a few challenges, but I think I've got everything sorted out well. So, good evening to you. This is Monday, July the 14th. Believe it or not, we are already halfway into the month of July, the seventh month of the year. Seven is in biblical terms the date or the number of completion. Eight, which would be next month, is the month. Eight is the number of new beginnings. So we hope that things will start new next month because, given all that we are experiencing in this country, I think the title that is up on the screen says it all very well. Breaking point, excuse me, enough. We're fed up. Sorry about that. Breaking point, enough is enough. People are fed up. And we'll be touching on some of these things as we go through the night. This evening, we'll go through a number of aspects. We have a great show lined up for you tonight. Great guests, as always. We always have people coming on this show that provide tremendous information and who guide us through the processes very, very well. So we're grateful this evening for all that is happening among our panelists and how they are really committing themselves to doing as much as they can to inform and to educate. I have to really get that caption that Marcia speaks so well: educate, activate, those kind of things. So it's a real joy for me to have the privilege again tonight, really, of being with you guys. The loyal opposition of Barbados. My goodness, just last night, I had the privilege of hosting the show because Marcia was so deeply involved in the motorcade and the time of prayer, which I understand was a tremendous success. And I want to say, that as I go into the show a little later on, I want to talk a little bit about the church because the people are always going after the church when things are happening, but I do want to share some positive things about them. And they're doing a lot of work in their own way. They're accomplishing quite a bit in their own processes and in what they're doing, and we should be really commending them. Not all of them are working in the same way. Some are dealing primarily spiritually, and some are dealing with the actual physical and needs of the people. But one way or the other, the church is quite active. I remember some months ago we had Apostle Lucille Beard, who was on with us, and she was doing a program paying the bus fares for everybody that was on the bus during a program and an outreach that they had initiated. And so we really want to commend those who are working, and they're, as I said, they're all working in their own ways. All right, so we want to welcome all of you to the show tonight. We're at about 198. Cameron Harding and Marva Lashley, Mavis, I'm sorry, Mavis Lashley, welcome to the show tonight. Laurie Bob, a pleasure to have you. I know that name, Bob, Laurie Bob. I know the Bobs in Grand Cayman very well, Torrance and Elsa Bob and their children. So I wonder if there's any relationship. Name is spelled the same way. Sir Alfred Benjamin, welcome to the show again tonight, sir. Thank you for locking on as often as you do every single show. A pleasure to have you with us again this evening. Marva Hunt, good night to you as well. And Marcia, of course, Marcia, always there to help me through to the time of the national anthem. She's soon going to tell me, Rev, it's time for the national anthem. I'm going to watch and see that's going to come out very shortly. Judy, Jill, it's a pleasure to have you again with us tonight. And of course, Matthew Brown, pleasure to have you back with us again this evening. All of the loyal opposition, Queen D. Yes, I agree with you. When we lose our fear, they lose their power. And we're going to be looking at some of those things this evening as well. Thank you, Marcia. She says, "Got that right, Rev." Well, Marcia is at 2:35, so I'm going to go straight to the national anthem. All right, and of course, I'm going to expect all of us to honor our national anthem and stand to attention, ladies and gentlemen. The national anthem of the Republic of Barbados. Well, every time I come to the end of that national anthem, I feel like saying amen or hallelujah, and they're really honoring our national anthem. We are proud of our national anthem. We're proud of our flag, and we are proud of our country. And that is what we pledge allegiance to. So I want you to repeat it with me this evening. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living to do credit to my nation wherever I go. And that is the pledge that we make. That is the commitment we make to our country. I've often heard it said, and it's been said here on this platform, and the administration has periodically expressed it over the last several years, that Barbados always punches above its weight. But I want you to know this evening that the reason Barbados has always been able to do that is because the Lord has been the people's guide for past 300 years. And that's why we enshrine it in our national anthem. With him still on the people's side, we have no doubts or fears. And I want to be clear this evening. God is on the people's side. And I am not one that subscribes to the fact that the voice of the people is the voice of God, because the voice of the people have regularly been incorrect and not advantageous to their country and to their cause and to their purpose. And so I want us to recognize the fact that indeed, God has blessed this nation. We have been spared from the horrors of hurricane after hurricane after hurricane. Now, we had one or two scrapes. I call them scrapes, even though I think Thomas struck us and Beryl, I think, passed very close to us or something of that nature. But we have not had anything happen to Barbados like what we have witnessed in St. Vincent and the Grenadines some months ago. I think it was last year or year before. Time is flying so quickly. Um, And so we're grateful today. And I don't think we should take it for granted. I really believe that we should be more grateful. We should be more thankful as a people with how we have been spared the ravages of hurricane systems. And I'm grateful to God today that He has allowed things to pass us. Now, that's not intended to suggest that the other nations or other countries or islands have done something for that they deserve. I am not in the position to make that judgment call. That is in God's hands. We don't know the if, ands, or buts. We don't know the reasons. We don't know all of the details surrounding why one is spared, the other is struck. We don't know. There are things that can often play into the fact that things can happen. And what troubles me this year is the actions of the Prime Minister having, and people might think, but Rev, you're always harping on this matter to do with the burial of the flag in Ghana. Well, the reality is that wherever I go in this country, people are talking about it. I was in the bank today and the people are talking about it. I was in the supermarket and the people are talking about it. The people are aware of the desecration that has been done to our national symbol, the thing that tells the rest of the world this is Barbados. And I believe it is disingenuous and a slap in the face for the Prime Minister to attend any function in any part of the world and not wear our national flag. When you see other country leaders proudly displaying the national emblem, the flag of their country, Denmark, Spain, France, England, the United States. You go into South America and you find Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, all of them wearing their national symbol of their flag. What does our Prime Minister wear? The Sustainable Development Goals pin that suggests to me that her commitment is more to the global elitists than it is to the people of Barbados. And this should be concerning for any of us. This should be concerning for all of us who are at this point just fed up. Okay, and that's why we have this this caption up on the screen here, breaking point, enough is enough. We're fed up. Okay, when I see the things that are happening in our country, I received a notification just last night, and I know the image might have frozen, and that's okay. We have been having some challenges with the virtual backgrounds, and I'm going to work through that. I'm going to get it done as great as I can. But we had some issues. I think it was last night. Someone sent me a message concerning a woman who there was an attempted carjacking. Now, not only are we having gun violence, not only are we having gang violence, but now we're having carjackings. And up to a couple of nights ago, a young man was relieved of his motorcycle in the presence of everybody. Everybody. And listen, I'm going to make a statement tonight. I hope I do not say something that is troubling or troublesome, but we need to equip ourselves to defend ourselves. Now, I'm not suggesting that we go to buy guns and apply for gun licenses and any of that type of thing. But what I can say to you tonight, what I can say to you tonight is that we need to get some form of defense. I understand. I don't know if pepper spray is available in Barbados, if it can be purchased. I have no idea with regards to that. If it can be purchased, then certainly we would do so. All right. But certainly I would advise you do so. But, insecticide is a powerful weapon, a very powerful weapon. And I'm going to suggest that you keep a can of insecticide close to you, in your car, in your purse. If somebody attacks you, spray them in their faces with the insecticide. It causes tremendous discomfort in the eyes. It causes vomiting, and it's not something you're going to want to have. It's not something you're going to want to have in terms of having that aspect, on your person. All right. So I'm going to suggest to you that you do what is necessary in order to protect yourself. That is the primary thing. I have said on this show on several occasions that the primary responsibility, everybody I have talked to, every leader, every person in politics, everybody involved in any form of political involvement, have all told me and have all agreed that the most important role of a government is the protection, security, and safety of its citizens. If that is the case, this government has failed miserably in protecting its citizens. We are up to what? 29 gun-related violence in the country, 29 people. And when you look statistically at a country, Canada, with a massive population, I can't remember, somebody posted it some time ago and I saw it, and I promised to have made a note of it and I didn't. But Canada with a massive population, when you compare the number of deaths per capita in terms of the country, Barbados is streets ahead of nearly the entire world. That is not satisfactory. And the government, rather than spending time with foolish rhetoric and nonsensical decisions and actions that, to my mind, are merely distractions, they should address the matter of crime and violence considerably more seriously. When they were in opposition, leading up to the 2018 election, this government, the Barbados Labour Party government, in opposition at the time, campaigned heavily against the failure of the Democratic Labour Party to protect its citizens and secure its citizens. They campaigned strongly on the platform of transparency and accountability. Well, let's take a look at those three areas. Number one, the aspect of crime and violence. They came to office in 2018, returned to office under the pandemic under suspicious conditions in 2022. And now we are in 2025. You have been in office for 7 years, and there has been no decline in crime in the country. Zero decline. As a matter of fact, it has increased in terms of what has been happening in the country. Number two, you promised transparency. How can you promise transparency and the country did not know that we were going to be a part of a program that would have involved several member states of CARICOM as it relates to freedom of movement? Dominica, Belize, Barbados, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. 4 countries. And last night we went into significant detail regarding the challenges that this poses to our country. Now, it's not that we are not welcoming. We are welcoming. But before you can go and make such a ad hoc decision without any consultation, that's not transparency. You needed to have a referendum in this country to find out how Barbadians feel about this. And you need to have set up. You're going to talk about doing this by October the 1st. At the rate that our months are going by, do you seriously think that we are going to be able to resolve the health issues that could result, housing issues that can result, job issues that can result, economic crises that can result, the burden that it could put on the Barbadian taxpayers that could come about as a result? All of these are things that I want to believe. I want to believe that this government has given consideration to these things. I want to believe that. And I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt and being extremely generous in what I want to believe. But we wake up one morning and find an announcement made by a country, the leader of a country, who in themselves have not made a decision to join the bandwagon, but are continuing to research and review the entire matter. Trinidad and Tobago, they have not joined the bandwagon. Guyana, they have not joined the bandwagon. Something should have told all of us that we need to pause. We need to pause. We need to hold. We need to hold some aspect and then move into this thing. And so, we are concerned as the people of Barbados, and as citizens, we have a right. That was the second campaign. That was the second thing that you engaged in your campaign. And the third thing was accountability. Accountability means that you have to give a report to the people of Barbados and answer their questions. You are not a law unto yourself. You have been elected by the people of this country. A republic is by the people, of the people, for the people. You are not our lords and masters. You may be ministers in government, but the employer is the people of this country. You do not employ us. We employ you. We hired you in an election. That is what the minority of the people decided, to hire you in an election. And you were given a mandate to govern this country under the condition that you report to the people. Now, you might think that you have been reporting. I say you haven't. And the reason I say you haven't, the Public Accounts Committee hadn't met. And don't tell me you've met. What met what? The Public Accounts Committee has not met to answer the questions concerning $60 million at Hope, $50 million at Kensington. And now we got 120 million Barbados dollars at Harrison's Point. Where's the Public Accounts Committee meeting? And Mr. Thorne, the leader of the opposition, has chastised the government over and over and over of resisting the meeting of the Public Accounts Committee. What have you got to hide? What are you attempting to hide from the people of this country? Why are you unwilling to host, I don't want to call them town hall meetings. Why are you unwilling to host interventions by the people of this country and give them an account of your stewardship? Don't talk to me about no stupid budget speech where you come in and do what? You can come in and say anything you want to say, and only one person is there fighting back, exposing you and criticizing you for the things that you have not done and for the misappropriation and mismanagement that you have engaged in, and the misrepresentation. The words that are coming out of your mouth don't match what the people of Barbados are experiencing. But you can jet set all over the world while the people in Barbados are suffering. And don't talk to me about suffering. People in this country are suffering. I see it every blessed day when I go to a gas station, when I go to a supermarket, when I go to a mini mart, when I go to a food stall. I see people suffering every single day. People who cannot meet their commitments. People that sometimes we have to take what limited financial resources we have to help people pay an electric bill or water bill or something of that nature. Up to recently, we have had to assist people even in terms of food and groceries. These are the things that people are dealing with on a daily basis while you sit on your private jets and fly from here to Brussels and from here to the European Union, and you're the spokesperson for the entire world on climate change. I said I'm going to talk about climate change one of these evenings. But climate change, I'm going to say it straight off the bat. I don't care who gets upset with me. One of the biggest hoax in the world. And there's a reason I have for saying that. Look at where people who are promoters of the climate change are putting their homes on the coastline and on some of the best property on the coast. If you were concerned about climate change, you wouldn't buy a multi-million-dollar home sitting on the beach. because a part of climate change is rising sea levels. We were told, for example, that Antarctica and Arctic are melting. Well, you're a liar. Antarctica, I think it is, the scientists have just revealed that over 545, I think it is, 1,000 tons of fresh ice has formed in Antarctica. And I don't want to spend it because I like to have my facts to hand, and I don't have them to hand at the moment. But you talk about carbon dioxide. When carbon dioxide represents less than 0.004% of the atmospheric condition around the earth, what madness are we talking about? But you see, this was all started by Al Gore under the guise of sustainable development. People poured millions of dollars into it. People have got stinking rich off of this thing. And that is what it was done for. And I tell you, there's been a book, I can't remember the name of it. There's been a book released concerning a meeting that was held with all these global elitists in the intention of establishing a single world government. It's now, no, it's not a conspiracy theory anymore. The book is published. The book is published. And the people around the world are taking a stand. Where are the people in Barbados taking a stand? Now, I said, I think it was last night. I think it was last night. I was talking and with Glenn Murray and Maxine McLean concerning our marches. And, you know, I understand why people would not come out. But I'll tell you this. I have warned the Prime Minister. And I'm going to say something after this. I have warned the Prime Minister. And I'm very serious about it. It does not take a march to remove you from office. God does not need an election to remove you from office. The Titanic thought that the 1/10 of the iceberg the captain saw, it could navigate. What it did not, or what the captain did not anticipate, was the 9/10 of the iceberg that the captain could not see. That is what he did not bargain for. And what was the result? We know the result. I am warning the Prime Minister. I hear people talk about the election going to be called in October. I'm going to tell you this, and I have a word for the opposition parties as well. Let me stick up in here and talk to you all. You all need to stop the foolishness and nonsense you're getting on with, fighting among yourselves, and try somehow to find common ground to unite around the well-being of this country. I don't care who you are. I don't care what party name you come up with. I am not interested. I don't care whether you have deviated, you have left, the DLP gone, started nothing. This is foolishness that we're getting on with. There should be a united front to deal with this government and remove it from office. And I'm going to tell you now, if the opposition parties continue with the fragmentation that we are seeing and do not make a serious attempt to unite around a common cause and a common goal, which is the removal of this government and the salvation of Barbados, I don't even want to say and express it. I don't. And I must say that if that is the case, we are going to need an act of God more than ever before. I am talking about a miraculous act of God. And I have said, and I will say it here again, the biggest threat to this country is the Prime Minister. And I make no apologies for saying that. You're the biggest threat to this nation. Just like Ahab in the Old Testament, when Elijah had to confront him, and he looked at Elijah and he said, "It is you that troubles Israel." And Elijah looked back to him and said, "No, no, no, it's you and your forefathers and your family that troubles Israel." And I say to you this evening, Madam Prime Minister, by your act of what you did in Ghana, you have troubled this country. Do not come to the church to ask the church to solve the issue that you caused. What you have to do is you have to come and join with the church, join with the religious entities of this country, and redeem this nation out of the hands of the demonic presences that you have opened up the access to this country through the act that you performed, which is nothing short of a spiritual oh God, I don't even know what to call it. a spiritual suicidal act, I would have to say. That is what you did when you took our sovereign flag, the thing that means everything to us in this world, and buried it in the ground. You should be embarrassed. And as a matter of fact, I was talking with someone this evening who is in the know, and they made the point to me that when they're lowering the flag, if the flag touches the ground and a police or defense force personnel sees them, they could be arrested for it touching the ground. That is what I was told. Now, I'm not the expert. I go by what people who are in the know have told me, and that is what they have expressed. And not a thing was done to the Prime Minister when she desecrated our national symbol, the thing that says to the rest of the world, I am a Barbadian and I'm proud to be one. But instead of that, you can walk in like some bully, some McGuffey, and want to dictate to the people of Barbados everything you want without question. I'm upset with you. This is not your country. This is our country. You don't own Barbados. Barbados belongs to the people, and you are accountable to the people. And as far as I'm concerned, you should be in jail for that act of putting the flag in the earth and condoning it by your presence and doing nothing about it, saying nothing about it. You were complicit in the act. You don't want to get me started, huh? You don't want to get me started, because I haven't even begun to touch on the international issues and the international perspectives that are problematic. But my first guest is in the green room, and I have a couple of them tonight. Both of them I always enjoy sharing my night with, and we'll have a couple of others in as surprise guests for you later on in the show. But I want to bring in my first guest this evening, and that would be Madam Her Excellency Rose Corbin. Rose, well, I have to tell you, I can call other people Her Excellency with due respect to our president, because I really do like her. I think she's a fine person. I've known her for many years. But I believe that many of the people who have paid yeoman service to this country should be honored and respected. And I see you as an educator, having given yeoman service to Barbados. And it is a pleasure of mine and an honor to welcome you this evening to the Marcia Weekes Show and to the loyal opposition. Good evening, madam.
Good evening, sir. Pastor Purdy, Dr. Purdy, Reverend Purdy, Ambassador Purdy. An honor always to be with you. And last night it was like kind of, when I heard you and like Murray and Maxine McLean, Miss McLean together. Wow, it was good last night. It was
Well,
good last
thank you.
night.
Thank
I
you so
listened from
much.
start to finish, and I'm so pleased to be with you this evening. And as I greet all the others, good evening, loyal sons and daughters of firm craftsmen of our faith. And I was out all day. I just scrambled in actually. We got in at about 7:15, but duty called, so I had to carry
Yes,
on.
yes.
And so
Yes,
I have no visuals, but it's in my head and it's in my heart.
yes,
So I
yes.
can speak and share with you. And you would have begun it last night. Um, Looking at what's happening in St. Lucie with that hospital. So I wouldn't belabor it because Maxine provided good information on it in terms of money spent and what it was suggested or proposed by Honorable Dr. Corey Ford after the pandemic and its use for the pandemic, how it would have been used. But Pastor Purdy, just let me preface why I'm focusing on St. Lucie. Actually, we did a last minute bus ride into St. Lucie. I wanted to touch St. Lucie before I came on, as I did sometime back with St. Andrew, when I felt like to traverse St. Andrew and then speak to matters pertaining to the lack of attention to St. Andrew. And
Uh,
I did.
Rose, if I could ask you to just pull the mic from up underneath your neck, up in line with your
I'm
lips.
sorry. I'm
There
sorry.
you go. There you go. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. That's
Um,
all right.
is
That's all
that
right.
better? Is
That
that
is
better?
brilliant. That is clean, crystal clear. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And so I
Uh,
went into St. Lucie,
yeah.
my husband and I, and we took the 3:30 Jersey Hill Connelltown bus. And why St. Lucie? On the early morning of Tuesday, the it would be the early morning of Wednesday, the 2nd of July. I was awakened around 3 o'clock. And I know when I'm awakened around that time that the Lord is trying to get my attention. It's a pattern, it's a relationship we have. Do bear with me, those of you who are here. Um, I'm not seeking to win over anyone, but I'm sharing my experience. And I got up and I went off by myself into the living room. My husband was sound asleep. And I started to pray frantically, all over the place for
Hmm.
whomever, whatever, wherever. And then came into Barbados. And when I got to Barbados, I said, Lord, what are you telling me about Barbados? And I kid you not, Pastor Ferdy, we can relate at this level now.
Yes.
I saw pray for Barbados. I will not disclose everything, but then I heard start with St. Lucie. And I saw St. Lucie, the top of St. Lucie where it's slanted, and the boundary line separates it from St. Andrew and St. Peter. And I heard pray for St. Andrew, St. Lucie. St. Lucie needs a cleansing. St. Lucie needs to be put right. And if you start with St. Lucie, it will trickle down. And I started praying for St. Lucie. And I Googled, I said, I know who is the incumbent for St. Lucie, but who is the DLP candidate for St. Lucie? And I said, wait, I think it's Alvin Toppin. But is that the same Alvin Toppin that I'm told is sick, paralyzed, and not speaking, not doing well? Is that the same man that were asked to pray for? And I did pray. And I Googled, and it was him, Pastor Ferdy. And I started to tell the Lord, if his illness has come because he it was overworked, multitasking, doing his DJ work, doing his professional work as financial advisor, insurance agent, as well as canvassing and working really hard in St. Lucie. Please bring him into full recovery and restoration. And I found myself praying, should he not be restored to full recovery. Please let someone else come alongside of him, and his goodwill and favor be extended to whomever to work as a strong opposition in St. Lucie. When I woke, my husband woke up, I said, "Sit, this is what I was up praying about all morning." And then later in the day, I didn't have Wi-Fi, but as soon as I had access to Wi-Fi, it popped up on my screen that Facebook, that Alvin Toppin had passed. It hit me, Pastor Ferdy, as if it were a relative, because here I was taken up with praying for this man and St. Lucie. And St. Lucie was in my mind all the time from being awakened that Wednesday morning so early, the first of the same second of July, and it never has left me. Hence my ride into St. Lucie today. But I was saying there's more, and I remember being told as in my spirit that there is more happening in St. Lucie that is to come. And then we were hit, and I must thank Maria Bradshaw for her investigative. It is one of the best pieces of journalism that we have had for a while. That is what we can call investigative journalism, to inform us about what's happening with the isolation hospital at St. Lucie. And you spoke so well about it in wrapping up last night, that this current government said as they were going into election from 2008 that there would be 18, sorry, there would be transparency and accountability. We received none. And this occurrence with that hospital, how it has been recalibrated, how it has been dismantled, how it has been reallocated, all of those words to accommodate this development here at to accommodate the activity, the construction work. How insulting, how disappointing. And I'm asking about representation, Pastor Ferdy. Did the MP for the incumbent for St. Lucie had a discussion, a meeting to say anything about that? Did he put up a case? Don't take it. Leave it for my people in the north. Leave it to service the people in the same St. Andrew and the same St. Peter. Did the MP for St. Peter put up a plea for that hospital, or they did learn about it through the same article that is on the screen now? Now, St. Lucie has been good enough for a naval base. That was the original use. And when that naval base was there, one of my my husband's cousin, she married one of the military persons based at Harson's Point, and now she's in America. And I was told that the persons from the environs got work out of the military naval base there. St. Lucie was good enough When Glengarry prisons were burned, St. Harson's Point was good enough, St. Lucie was good enough to house hundreds of prisoners, many of them dangerous criminals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Harson's Point was good enough to have the isolation hospital for the pandemic. Many went in and never came out. And I have had relatives, one of my brothers, he went to Harson's Point for 15 or 17 days and struggled for his life. It was good enough to be set up so quickly at that cost to taxpayers for the pandemic. And I have no issue if it were done for that purpose and used for that purpose to save lives. Whatever you may feel about COVID-19, it was put to good use, that facility. Is St. Lucie only good to house for so many decades the cement plant, where so many persons complain for respiratory conditions? The Griffiths, I know them very well. I was a visitor to their home in Checker Hall. Mr. Roy Griffith, who built those homes, 5 of them, for 3 daughters and 2 sons. And I used to roam those houses and proud that a black man could build these houses for his children. And then they had to abandon those houses. Now I'm glad that their houses have been restored to them. The cement plant, it's being closed. But isn't St. Lucie not deserving of that hospital being kept there to serve that northern part of Barbados? And today, as I drove on the bus, you know what came to mind, Pastor Ferdy? That song, Patches, I'm depending on you, son, to pull the family through. And I told my husband that, and he started laughing. The roads are patched. Patched. They did a quick fix, a good smooth road to go down. It was River Bay for regathering. And then nothing else. Every other road going into St. Lucie, after St. Andrew, it's St. Lucie. We go for bus rides through St. Andrews, through St. Lucie. St. Lucie today had such a peace. It's such a peaceful parish. Clusters of houses, like you could see their family, extended family. Then other houses separate, but you don't get a sense of being distant from each other. Is it that the people of St. Lucie are so long suffering, like the rest of Barbados, that these things can be done to them? What was the consultation? Where are the MPs? Where is the incumbent Peter Phillips? Where is the incumbent for the neighboring St. Peter? What's his name? MP Colin Jordan. Where's the MP for St. Andrew? Just close there. What's his name again? MP Dr. Rommel Springer. Nobody puts up a plea for their constituents and constituency. What about the St. Joseph Hospital? My mother, for a short period when she came back from England, before transitioning to New York, my mother worked at that St. Joseph Hospital as an auxiliary nurse, and she liked it. I remember dropping her there many times in between 1980 81. And the peace at St. Joseph Hospital, I will bemoan its loss and the promises that have been made to the people that they are going to reopen it, they're going to let that be a health facility for the northern parts of the island. And my concern is that it is not fair how we, the Barbadian people, are being treated public, how we're being treated. I am not against investment, but we are hearing how shaky the tourism product is. And as we were driving, I am seeing the landscape on the West Coast. There are more hotels going up. And hence this one now. Why haven't you come back to us and told us the planned changes, the planned change of use for that facility at Harrison Point? Why haven't you been open in terms of telling us how much money will be gained from that lease? Too many of our china and silver and gold from our treasury, whether it is money or whether it is our assets, our land, these are being plucked out of our hand. Like we can't ever forget that tragedy. I call it a tragedy of the old General Hospital given to the African Bank, and under trying to mummize that, it is look, we've given CDB and we give Tahoe land and we give CHC, but that's a different kettle of fish. That's a different argument there. They don't line up. We give away that property. I cannot help think of what has happened in Whole Town. As we drove through Whole Town to St. Lucie, I could not help but look at the civic center that has been given away again. And you're displacing others because of what you call investment. What at now we are hearing that what's going to happen to the garrison, what that school is called now.
You mean the Garrison School?
Yes, they're moving the Garrison School. They're shutting it down, and they are moving that faculty to the Ursuline Convent property. And
But
what
wait,
plan?
Hold a minute,
Yes,
Rose.
please.
But wasn't the Ursuline Convent designated for a college or something of the sort? Wasn't there
Yes,
some conversation? You see, the problem I have with this government is that nobody seems to sit down and plan. That's the problem I have, Rose. It's like every decision is being made on the fly. You know what I'm saying?
yes,
It reminds me of the current West Indies cricket team. There's no plan. You're going out there and you're just batting and bowling. There's no constructive plan. How are we going to build the innings? How we're going to extend the innings? How we're going to attack? There is such a lack of planning and execution, and I can't help but think that they are shooting in the dark because, of course, elections are close, and they're just trying to throw a whole set of things together to make the people think that they're busy doing something.
But Pastor Ferdy, when you think of it, you are moving the garrison school from there. Why? Why? And for what use will that property be used? Is it are we speculating that there is going to be from all along that south coast all the way down, including the government
Yep.
facilities
Yes.
on around the garrison? Will those be given away like they've given to a Fritzen bank, like they've given to the investors down at down in whole town, like there are no? I have my doubts about the short-term lease of that property to house contractors and the workers as well as materials. That is ludicrous. That is ludicrous. And you're saying, God forbid, should there be some other pandemic, but we don't want that.
Well, they're
But should
planning
we
that.
need,
The World Health Organization and the rest of them are already planning it. Fauci spoke about it. The World Health Organization said we're going to have one. The head of the United Nations said we're going to have one. These are prophets, prophets that arrange things to happen for the monetary benefit. And people don't want to say it, but I'm not afraid to say it. There's nothing to do with no pandemic in this world. God is not stupid. They're planning all of this. Anyhow, let me let you go ahead because you don't want to
and
get me
and, and,
started.
and I'm going to wrap up. One of the things I would like the persons from the constituents from St. Lucie to do, seek out your MP, the
Yes.
incumbent uh, Peter Phillips, and ask him what provision has been made for the unemployed and the underemployed in his constituency, St. Lucie, on that project that is being undertaken by Pendry.
But wait
Will
a minute,
his
my dear.
constituents,
Wait a minute. In the article I just had up on the screen, okay, and I'm going to try to get back to it. In the article I just had up on the screen, it states clearly the company has imported several foreign workers. This is the company that's setting up, which is a resort, mind you. It is not a medical facility. I can go back to the article.
I
It is
read that. And
yes.
so it is within that context that I am saying, lobby your NP. I also wondered how many persons from that constituency and from the north were employed at the former cement plant. I heard that the cement plant was did things within and for the community. Fair enough. But with this now, where your taxpayers' monies have been disabused by taking up a facility that was built with your money and putting it in the hands and of these investors who are building a resort. That is an insult. It's injurious. It is saying that the people, you don't care about the people. And when I was told when they were building Sam Lord's Castle, the Chinese, as usual, had their facilities, but other persons were housed or they were rented property for the workers? Why can't there are houses, many houses in St. Lucie that can do air bed and breakfast, that can be rented out for the duration and bring some money, bring some prosperity, however short-lived, some wealth, however short-lived, but shared amongst the people. What are you getting from that lease? Are you being transparent that it is only for a given period? Or somewhere along the line, we are hearing that plans have changed. Also, I would like the Minister of Health to invite the press and other interested parties from civil society on a site visit to show us where all the equipment is being housed, being relocated, and for what use. Don't just tell us that the equipment somewhere in this same report here, that the equipment has been moved and will be used at the hospital. And Pastor Further, you spoke about it. I know of persons who've gone to Cayman for treatment on their heart. I know
Hmm.
I know people in Colombia who've gone to Colombia for surgery,
Hmm.
elective surgery, and for cancer treatment. I know persons who still go to Trinidad, but we can't offer it here. Call a press conference and a tour with the media and other interested persons and point to us where these things, the equipment, and the other things, items from the isolation hospital, where they are. Have they been sold off, or have they been? We're hearing of private-public partnership between a recent entity that has opened and government. The Prime Minister talked about it. Let us know what you are doing. Don't let us hear these things when you go to Jamaica. Don't let us hear these things when you are on the world platform. Don't let us hear these things when you are cutting the ribbon at a Fritzing Bank and you're talking about the diatribe the people engaging. Don't let us hear these things when you're cutting the ribbon at the most recent private health um, faci- um, facility. Talk to the people. Let us know. Let us know our health matters. And
Yes,
I'm
yes.
asking St. Lucie to rise up, lobby your MP, ask him to get some work for you all at that site, which should be up to what, 18 months to 2 years. Ask for work there. I'm sure St. Lucie has skilled artisans and they can benefit from the giveaways. And remember, St. Lucie has the home of the father of independence, Prime Minister, the Honorable Bar. What have they done for it? While you are making St. Lucie now a model in tourism investment, the latest baby to come to tourism, fits up the Prime Minister's childhood home. And this where I'm at. And also, those from St. Peter and those from St. Andrew, ask your MP, did you have a say in what was going on at that facility. And I am noticing, Reverend Ferdy, that their supporters are putting up arguments that we don't have the staff, we don't have the doctors, we don't have the nurses, we don't have the resources needed, the manpower needed to run a medical facility in the north. What was that? So you
Well,
mean that the North doesn't deserve anything good? Only a prison, only an isolation hospital, and a cement plant, a patches in the road, a dirty water, dirty water for all these months, dirty um non-potable water all these months. St. Lucie doesn't deserve more. Do something about it. And one of the things now is to think about getting rid of dead weight MPs,
well,
starting with St. Lucie.
I'll tell you this. I nearly call you Maxine. I'll tell you this, Rose. I mean, there's just so much that we can extrapolate on this entire thing. And I got Victor here in the back room waiting on us. And I will say this to you. The people of Barbados, I want to believe that the people of Barbados are going to make the right decision. We have to wait for an election to be called. And I am praying. And I said it a few minutes ago. I'm praying that the opposition parties, and here I'm speaking of all of them, not any one in particular, all of them, will consider what is in the best interest of Barbados and not in the best interest of their ego or their party or anything of that nature, because it's going to take a united grouping of people to remove this government from office. And we have to have people who will see the bigger picture. If you have gripes with Mr. Thorne, we can fix it. If you have gripes with Miss Steve, we can fix it. Gripes with Ronnie, it can be fixed. Don't tell me it can't be fixed. What we have to do is get people's egos out of the way and people's pride out of the way and do what is in the best interest of the country. That's why I did not pledge allegiance to the APP, the BLP, or the DLP, or any other PPP, or any other P. I pledged allegiance to my country and to my I will do what is in the best interest of our country and our flag. Rose, I want to
Yes.
thank you for your contribution to the show tonight. It has been very thought-provoking as we look at what is going on in St. Lucie. And I think people need to realize that there has been a significant shift in what is happening up there, and that without any communication to the people of Barbados. None. No communication, no transparency, nothing. It's just been done, and I call it through the back door. Through the back door. All right. And you know me, I call a spade a spade. If I get in trouble for it, I get in trouble for it. If I have to come back and apologize, I'm not too big to do that. But I know what is in the best interest of this country. And that is primarily remove the prime minister. Secondary, remove the government. Thirdly, elect a new government. So opposition parties, get your act together and stop the foolishness. And let us put Barbados first. Thank you, Rose. Just
Thank
hang
you. And I
around.
want to say thank you again to Maria Bradshaw
Yes,
for
absolutely.
bringing this to the public and let us know what has been happening. We keep our eyes
Absolutely.
on those things. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you
Good
so
night,
very much.
everyone.
God bless you. God bless you. Great to have you again. And thank you for being
Pleasure.
here. Praise God. Well, I'm going to be bringing in our next guest. He's a no stranger to our group, and he's absolutely no stranger. Just before we do that, I think you can see it there up on the screen. The Let me just pull up my version of it that I can read it a little better. We have the Walk Holy Kadooment Band is presenting pure soca and social commentary. This is on the 20th of July. That's this coming Sunday. This coming Sunday, 20th of July 2025 at 4:30 in the evening at the Praise Academy in Upper Cullimer Rock. The entrance fee is $20 and they'll be featuring Kid Sight, the announcer, Blood, Donella, Ricardo, Antonio, the Apache, Sammy Jane, Colin Spencer. We just heard, yes, last night, Colin Spencer's new song, and I went, wow. Lady Virtue, James Leacock, and many more. And so we want to encourage you to support the Walk Holy Kadooment Band. If there's ever a time we need proper moral component within the context of our country, it is now. So give them that support. Well, let me welcome my next guest in this evening. This is Mr. Victor Lewis. And Mr. Victor Lewis, I am going to get a chair like that because every time you come into the studio, you come in so relaxed, looking so relaxed, and I hear
Work with
sitting
it now.
down,
Yeah, man.
looking so whatever you will call me. I don't know what you would call me. But Victor, it's a pleasure having you. I've been trying to download and activate your videos. I may have to play them from WhatsApp, but I think I should be able to do that. So I am at your pleasure, sir, and welcome to the Marcia Weekes Show.
Wow. Thank you very much, Dr. Ferdinand, and a very pleasant night to the loyal opposition. You're an expert now, Dr. Ferdinand.
Yeah, let me
You're an expert
expert.
now, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I
Yeah.
graduate you, man. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
Top
tell
notch
you.
now. It's just like Dave now, man.
I'm
you
I'm
know,
still learning. I'm still learning.
mhm,
Trust me. Trust me.
yeah. In your opening remarks, I heard you mention this whole idea about climate change.
Yes.
And that's a real interesting. Those are some real interesting words, you hear banded about it on all the different media stations these days, it's because of climate change. What happened in Texas, climate change, all over the place, climate change, Um, I heard you mention also and this whole concept of climate change, that we are having people still, to be more specific, the Prime Minister of Barbados, you know, purchasing properties adjacent to the sea.
Yeah.
And
What?
you
What?
just
You
you just
remember?
wonder. Hmm.
You remember? Uh, President Barack Obama. Don't get vexed with me, folk, because he's a black man. Don't get upset with me. Okay. So let me get rid of that right off the bat. President Barack Obama, one of the proponents of climate change, purchased a multi-million-dollar mansion right on the beach.
Hmm.
And I asked the question quite seriously. I wasn't suggesting that he didn't have a right to buy it. I think he has a right, if he has the money, buy it. But it would seem to me rather strange that
Hmm.
a major proponent of climate change would buy a property sitting on the beach where the water coming straight up the sand into his front yard,
Hmm.
given increasing in the height of sea levels.
Sea levels, yeah. But
Multi-million dollar property. That don't sound right to me. And then the
no.
Prime Minister of Barbados is going to divest
Hmm.
of the whole tongue area for the construction of hotels. But I thought we were having a threat of rising sea levels.
Hmm.
Why would you do that?
Somebody
See, I
confused.
don't buy it. I don't buy into that foolishness. I don't buy into that.
No, I would like to ask mom, if she owned a property in Calawash, which is a few
Oh
hundred
dear.
yards away from another property in Coxhill, which is on to Calawash. So, mom could come and answer these questions for us, right? Whether
Hmm.
she owns a property in Calawash, which is by the sea, Coxhill by the sea, that's two. And then we've got to look at the proximity of George River to these two properties. And all of that is the Mam Triangle, all adjacent to the sea. And we wonder why. You know, we wonder why. Climate change. Put on that first video there, Dr. Ferdinand.
Now, which one do you want me to go with first? The one with the gentleman?
There's a clip there for the nation. From the nation.
Right.
That's the first one.
That's the one with the gentleman speaking in the green hat.
And then there's a lady speaking also. You know, it was an interview.
Okay, I'm going to try to put it up here.
We got to try to, you know, remind the folks of what transpired back then. You know.
Right. I just want to be sure I have it on the screen.
Don't play it yet. Don't play it yet, Dr. Ferdinand. Don't play it yet. You got to read your stop words there. It says nation update. Update. There's an update, you know. This is not really the first story. There's an update. So something happened before.
Okay.
Relief coming
for St. Joseph.
And this is nearly 6 months ago. 6 months ago. Relief coming for St. Joseph, but they didn't say when. But they say relief coming for St. Joseph. Play the video there, Dr. Ferdinand.
Yes, sir. I will. I will. And you just confirm you're hearing.
Not having your vehicle. Oh boy.
The vehicle sound like a symbol. There's a rattling noise right now. The tail lights again. There's a rattling noise on the vehicles. I guess they have to change brakes, they have to change shocks. You know what I mean? It's just terrible.
And then sometimes, you know, I drop in the morning, tail goes flat. Because you know you said in the park.
I have had an experience where I dropped into a hole. My tire burst on the spot. Someone suggested to go to NTW, and it was so much drama. I had to prove that the car was mine. I had to prove the insurance. I had to prove the license. I just give up. So it's useless when you drop into a hole and you get your car damaged. You get any kind of compensation. Another thing is that the most frustrating part of it is when the rain falls. Because when the rain falls and the water settles, you don't know what is hole for what is main road. And that's what is scary about it, because you might go across a pool of water and realize it's a well. It's a well that you dropped in and caused damage to your vehicle.
Look when you understand that people got to come in here then. I don't know, got this here as people. You understand? And all of this touching your word, you can say, I don't know. It's all about it.
Have you voiced these concerns to NTW or the representative?
You know, yeah, NTW come, they tell me they want exam paper, they want everything we produce. And nobody starting with that thing last year they come. Every minute they come and do one thing, but nobody don't ever come back. So we agree that this is just a moat, nobody's saying back. I know it's gonna happen there at the start. I know I'm gonna lose customers, or they're not gonna finish. They're not gonna finish. I'm holding my mouth. They're not gonna finish.
Are you realize what happened there, Dr. Ferdinand? The lady in red said that this report was made to MTW since last year. And this is the nation now interviewing this year. So in 2024, these individuals in St. Joseph expressed their concerns about what's going on in St. Joseph. And this is the nation now turning up for an update. And this is 6 months after, Dr. Ferdinand, 6 months after. I want to show you what is happening now in St. Joseph. I must tell you up front, we only have in St. Joseph about 1 kilometer, only 1 kilometer of road, at least 1 kilometer of road paved in St. Joseph. A little piece in Suriname, and another piece now in Vaughan number 2. So you go Vaughan number 2, between the two graveyards, you got a little piece. You add on that piece to the little piece in Suriname, and about 1 kilometer or maybe just over 1 kilometer of road, Dr. Ferdinand, in St. Joseph. After all those complaints that started in 2024, this is where we are, with the nation going for an update. 6 months ago, this is where we are now in St. Joseph. Today is the 14th of July, 2025. Play some more of those videos there, Dr.
Yes,
Fred.
sir.
Show
And
the folks what's going on.
before I do that, you know,
Yes, sir.
I can empathize with these people, Victor,
Mm-hmm.
because several years ago, just around by Laura Estate, where they have the roundabout, just further down where I think you turn into that area, a little industrial area with fasteners and bolts or something like that.
Right, right.
One night, I was going down. I think I was going to a function, and I slammed into a pothole, busted my tire, bent my rim, knocked out my halogen. You know, these headlights that carry a
Yeah,
computerized
yeah.
system in the light. Victor, the repair bill for that vehicle was $4,000+. I never received a cent from the Ministry of Transport and Works, and I
Mm-hmm.
sold the vehicle in that condition.
Oh.
All right, and Mike, and it was a rare car. It was a Mazda 6 Sports version,
Mm-hmm.
and I had no intention of getting rid of the vehicle, none. But what the lady said is correct. Horrors dealing
All
with the
right.
Ministry of Transport and Works, and even
Mm-hmm.
though I knew people in there,
Mm-hmm.
I
It's not
still,
about pulling a string.
you
You
know,
don't want to pull a string.
no. But listen, you know when they responded to me? Make a
Mm-hmm.
guess when they responded to me in the affirmative. Make a guess.
The car done said and gone.
Car done sent and gone 2 years later to send me a letter. 2 years later to send me a letter. I said, well,
Ah.
in a point, you know, they didn't want
Mhm,
to give me the money. They want to replace, you know,
mhm,
they want to purchase the rim, so they would provide the funding to
mhm,
McInerney for the rim and the lights and all that. I said, well, no point me engaging in this because I no longer have a master.
mhm.
You know, that's the foolishness we have to put
You
up
hear
with.
the
But anyhow,
gentleman
let
said
me,
just now in the video. The gentleman said just
yeah,
now in the video his vehicle sound like a symbol.
yeah, yeah,
You know, I
yeah.
have two. One sound like a symbol. I put it down. I still pay the insurance for it. But I prefer not to drive that because that sound like a symbol too. You see? Now
Right.
this road here is called Bonwell, and I feel it's synonymous with the whole concept of wells. Look to the left there. Look to the
But
left.
those are not wells. Those are not wells.
That's a swimming pool.
No, no, no. That's a drilling. That's a rig. That's a drilling. That's a oil drilling site. What you call them things now? They're drilling for oil. That ain't no
This is Bonwell in St. Joseph. And the reason why I'm here, Dr. Ferdinand, a transport board driver said to the people in that area, don't play no more videos yet. This is Bonwell. And a transport board driver said he has difficulty. It is against his conscience to take our buses, Dr. Ferdinand, through Bonwell. He don't want to take buses through Bonwell because of the condition of the roads. This is a bus driver that goes and collects his paycheck every week or every month or every fortnight, as the case may be. He doesn't have to worry about the whole concept of the maintenance of a bus or whether it is sounding like a symbol or not. But he is saying to the people of St. Joseph that he is fed up bringing our buses through Bonwell because of the condition of the roads. But you find out in St. Joseph, they go and do Suriname. But of course, do Suriname. But that is a cul-de-sac. No buses don't travel through there. You're going to do between the graveyards so that when folks come to the funeral, you can see a nice paved area between the graveyard, Bond number 2. Of course, the one side Bond was bad, like all the roads in St. Joseph. But that is another cul-de-sac. Buses don't travel through there. Now I realize that they're going down in Phillips Road, Cleaver Hill in St. Joseph, and they milled down there sometime earlier this week with a view now of paving. That is another cul-de-sac. No buses don't travel through there, but this road, Dr. Ferdinand, the transport buses pass through there every single day to drop folks in Barnwell to and from Bridgetown. And this is the condition of the road. And these folks have been complaining for this road, not only the residents of the area, but the bus drivers. The bus drivers saying,
I tell you. And
the
if there's a vehicle,
yes,
that can handle a degree, not that they can handle any and everything, but a degree of rough terrain, rough roads. I
mhm,
mean, not offshore. I'm talking about not paved roads. If there's a vehicle that could accommodate it a bit, is a bus,
mhm.
because the suspension systems are designed for those purposes, heavy
But the
duty and so
yes,
on. Go ahead.
but the bus driver saying now he's fed up coming through there because all he realized that he's doing is mashing up our buses by taking them through there. So they're
Well,
going and pave Suriname, they pave Vaughan number 2, they're going to pave Phillips Road. No buses don't travel through there. Those roads need paving. Of course, yes, of course, pave them. But why neglect? And this is coming up the hill from
wow.
McCulloch Bridge. You see
Yeah.
look to the
What
left.
road?
Look to the
That's not a
left there.
road.
No.
That's not a road.
Oh, forgive me, Dr. Ferdinand. Forgive me, man. Forgive me. That is where the buses have to pass.
No, no,
This
no,
is
no,
this
no,
this
no.
is the point. No, this is the point. Dr. Ferdinand, look to the left. What are you saying to the left?
I'm seeing a mud trap clearly where vehicles are trying to avoid that pothole
Yes. So
and
that's
trying to
what
avoid the pothole on the right hand side too. So they're
that
wheeling
is
on the
why
mud.
the buses now have to go through the cane ground in Barnwell Road in order to service the people of
Wow,
Barnwell
wow,
Road.
wow,
And this has been going on now for years. For
wow.
years. And you hear what they said, in our nation clip, relief coming soon. Soon what?
And
Nonsense.
and and this one here now, what's this? What's this one? That's a carrot road. That's a carrot trap.
Don't, man, no.
No, that's a carrot road.
Dr. Ferdinand, I live in St. Joseph. I
What?
let you telling the
No,
truth, man, but don't insult my rose, man.
no.
Don't insult
What's
my
that?
rose.
But
Huh?
that's a carrot road, Victor. Look at the grass
Yes.
growing up in the middle.
But Dr. Ferdinand, people live up in there. Josephines live up in there. That is what you call the ridge. Dr.
Oh,
Ferdinand, you see to the left there where you see all those bush. To
yes,
the
yes.
left, all that area there where the bushes, we have Gabions packed in there. That is one of the roads that the constituency rep abandoned, forgot, because they started the Gabion work right to the left there. Gabions going up straight up through our grass, straight there. Continue the video and up that hill. That leads to Coconut Grove. Stop it there. That leads to Coconut Grove. All of that is a public road. That's the public road that we call the ridge. The ridge that comes from Gagson area up to Coconut Grove and up to Upper Parks and Lower Parks. Don't cry, Dr. Ferdinand. That is it. That is a public
Victor,
road.
Victor, no, no, no. Victor.
That is the one that the representative for St. Joseph started on. Pack all the Gabions. The Gabions didn't even finish pack yet. Abandoned that part of it. But I gotta show you another part. I gotta
But
show you another part of the ridge.
But before we
This is
even move on to that next part, didn't the
yes, sir.
government acquire in 2018, to the best of my memory, and people can correct me, I am not the greatest, they tell me that I have a brilliant memory. I can remember everything. The recall is the challenge.
Mhm.
But I recall a large loan of 200 and something $million for infrastructural development when this government came to office in 2018 from the Inter-American Development Bank.
Oh, hold it there, Dr. Ferdinand. Hold it there. At a St. Joseph Speaks meeting at Grantley Adams, the representative for St. Joseph said the people of St. Joseph can wait. You understand that, Dr. Ferdinand?
No.
At a meeting, at a meeting at the Adams School at St. Joseph Speaks, the representative for St. Joseph said that the people of St. Joseph can wait, and this is what we are subjected to in waiting.
But this is the other one here now. What's this here?
Hold it there. Hold it there again, Dr. Ferdinand. You stop the car. Stop it right there. You see where that car is?
Yes, sir.
That car going off the road.
What, you're saying there's a pothole
Just
up there?
like the
But this looks like good road.
This is the main road that leads from the Grand Adams area, Bathsheba. It's going to go straight down now to Parcel. You're going straight down by Andrew's factory and going down to Groves. That is it. And right at that point, in the Blackman's Corner area, you have some wells there in the road. And just like in Bonwell, this is what the vehicles have to do. They have to go off the road in order to shun the potholes in the road. Play the video there, and you'll realize what those vehicles are doing. Play the video. Rewind it again. Pull it back, pull it back, pull it back, pull it back. Right, pull it back. Pull the car back, Dr. Ferdinand. Right. You see that? Watch where that car going up. He can't go off the road, showing the potholes.
You know, Victor, I have spent several years in the Cayman Islands. And what I've observed, here's another one. Here's another.
Watch it, two of those. Watch it. You see the guy behind. Say he cannot do what the guy on the left is doing. I've gone through the campground on the left, so he's going to the right. So the vehicle having now to be driving. Watch the two vehicles. Watch it. Bring them down there, Dr. Ferdinand. Bring them down. Hold it right there. You see what the guy on the right is doing? The guy on the left going up to the campground, and the guy on the right driving on the right side of the road just to avoid those potholes. And that is on the main road. That is on the main road, Dr. Ferdinand.
Well, let me make sure I don't let his registration number be visible, because he would just have broken the law going over the right hand side of the road. But no, quite seriously, Victor, this is very serious. I know there is an attempt to fix the roads in Barbados. I've seen road works going on, but for the life of me, my father was in the Ministry of Transport and Works, Ministry of MCW, I think it was at the time, because I was a young pop squeak at the time. I think it was MCW, and what did I go and do here now? I don't know what I went and did on my screen.
But I got one more there till further that I want you to show. Because
I gotta try and get back how my screen was before. So give me a chance. Let me get back. But that oh no, I don't want to leave the studio. But that being as it is, okay, let me try this one. He worked in the MCW for many years, and I see people doing road repairs over and over and over and over, with tar dropping into a hole, and I'm asking, but you mean after all these years we haven't learned that when you drop tar in a hole and the rain falls, the tar can get washed out, and because of erosion, because of the rubble, the reaction, the rubbing of the stone against where it's sitting, the hole you patch actually gets bigger than what it was previously. And I can't understand. Can't these people come up with a different solution to the problem?
I don't know. There's two things. I went into Dublin Road today, and I got the biggest shock of my life. I mean, it was a shock, right? This is in Belplain in St. Andrew, Dublin Road. And this is a road that took years. When I tell you years, Dr. Ferdinand, to be repaired. And they put down gabions, they paved the road. And I gone up through there today, and just where they put down the gabions, the whole road collapsed. I mean, gone down about 3 to 4 feet down in the ground. The whole road that paved Barbara Green, put down Gabions, everything, and the whole road collapsed. I said those folks in Dublin Road, Balplain, must feel really bad because they've waited for years, Dr. Ferdinand, for those repairs. And I was so hurt today to go up in there and realize that the whole road collapsed. But I want to show you. Pull up there. You have a still photo there. Is that a still photo or video? But I want to show you. I want to show you this one. The people of Barbados must see this.
Let me see if I can find it, because I'm just looking at what Marcia sent to me, and I'm not seeing anything more than those 4 videos. Sorry, 3 videos, and he's still shot with the one going up the hill. I am not seeing anything else, unfortunately. So you might have to talk us through that one.
Yeah, well, fine, you know. But you know, Dr. Ferdinand, I guess you would have observed. You would have observed that a lot of milling paving has occurred in this country during the time of World Cup cricket.
Yes, sir.
You can recall that.
Yes, sir.
We know that we saw a lot of roads where there's milling pave. Milling pave. I would have gone down to by Gibbs, where we had the issue down there with the Gibbs Gully. And I saw C.O. Williams doing some work down in that area. And those folks excavate. They bring in the marl, they pop, they ram, they pop, they ram, they pop. All that's happening in Gibbs, St. Peter. But you know what happened during our milling pave? You saw what happened, Dr. Ferdinand. You're in blind, Dr. Ferdinand. You saw what happened.
I saw.
You know, they mill this evening and pave tonight. Mill in the evening, pave in the night. That is exactly what happened to the Ridge Road in St. Joseph. You know, up there where you say that that is not a road, that's a cat road. Dr. Ferdinand, a portion of that road was paved. It was paved. And you know what it paved on? Dr. Ferdinand, tell me. The whole road swell up. You know when the road swell up and cracking, ball up, that now the vehicles shunning it. And this is a road that is under repairs. And the representative for St. Joseph felt proud about that road, that they paved the Ridge Road. Go drive through the Ridge Road now. You will see the same Ridge Road that is incomplete. It is incomplete because the portion of the Ridge Road leads up the hill onto that portion of road that you just call a cat road. That leads then up to Coconut Grove. That portion of the road that was paved years ago because the project had died, because practically it's abandoned now. What is happening to that road? Because of the lack of quality of work that they shave off the mud, put on Barbara Green, and then come to the media for stamp of approval. I want to say for the road works that we are hoping will transpire in St. Joseph soon, that the road works is not reflective of what they did in the Ridge. We don't want no person, we don't want no company coming to St. Joseph and doing the quality or lack thereof what we have experienced in the Ridge. And I would have loved for you to see that, because the Mr. Ferdinand, that's an area that was paved, milled and paved, but they milled mud and put the Barbara Green on top of the mud. They
That's
call
not
in the media.
that's
You
not a good
know,
idea. That's not a
yes,
good idea. Not in
you
St.
know,
Joseph, not in St. Andrew. Bad
but
idea. Very,
that
very
is
bad idea.
exactly what happened in the
Very bad idea.
witch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
But
I don't want them now coming to St. Joseph. Close now to, I heard you said just now we have an election in October, Dr. Fernand.
well, I heard so. I heard so.
Some,
I can't confirm that.
yeah,
All I know is I hearing a lot of election stuff in the air when you look around and see all of these ad hoc knee jerk things being done without any kind of planning, without any kind of common sense, without any kind of strategy. One is left to believe that they're just trying to make Barbadians think that they're doing something because the election is near. But what I will say, Victor, I mean, there's just
mhm.
so much you could share for us with regards to this. I mean, I believe we could go through almost every parish in this country, and you can find a similar story. And I talk with people daily. I have good friends at Automotive Art, and they tell me the stories. Every day, every day, every day, people are coming in for new tires, new rims, and all kinds of things.
But Mr. Fernand, I had to come to the people on this one
Yes,
because
yes,
it is a bus driver that took the stance.
you're right,
A
right,
bus
right.
driver, a bus driver
Yeah,
says
yeah,
he
yeah.
don't want to take no. You see how wonderful buses we have now, beautiful.
Well,
And
we
the bus
we
driver said, I don't want to take the buses through there no more. This is
I
St.
will
Joseph, Dr. Fernand. I
I
gotta
will
stand
go.
up. I gotta stand up for my people, man. Come on.
That that's oh my goodness. Well, listen.
Yeah.
Um, we have our next guest in
Mhm.
the green room, so to speak, and
Yeah.
want to make sure we give him some time because one or two of our guests that were scheduled to come in
Yeah.
tonight unfortunately can't make it. So I've given a little flexibility in terms of time and so on
Yeah.
because of that.
Before I
But
go to Dr. Fernand, I must give credit to the Chinese. The Chinese working in Calawash area. I
mhm.
must say, you must give Jacket. The Chinese that are working in the Calawash area, they are doing an excellent job. I
Thank you.
must,
Well, I'm sure they are happy to hear you say that, but
yeah.
my
Mhm.
concern is when they're finished the job, is the land going to belong to us? That's my only concern. Anyhow, listen, let me get our next guest in. You
Yes, sir.
you can feel free to stay with us if you wish. I'll just rest you in
Yeah.
the green room so you can go and get a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or
No,
something.
no,
I
no, no.
don't know.
A cup of water. That's
A
fine.
cup of water. Fine. Okay, sir. Well,
Yeah.
thank
Take
you
care.
so much, Victor, for bringing us aware of these things in your constituency. And I have no
Mm,
doubt that there are
mm,
other people in other constituencies who can come to the Marcia Week show. We are open to these things. We are the
mm.
loyal opposition. We are not the government, but I have made provision in my evenings of the show for the government to come. If you wish to come, but just come prepared to answer questions. Don't come with no rhetoric. Don't come with no attitude or anything of the sort. Come to give an account. So, sir, we thank you so very much for alerting us to all that is happening in your constituency and the neglect
Mhm,
and the failure to act upon
mhm.
these matters. Thank you
And,
so very
and,
much. And
and
like
save
I
our
said,
buses. Save our
yeah,
buses.
save the buses, but that's another subject for another time because I don't want to get into this electric bus business, but I will just leave that there. Victor, good seeing you this evening, sir. God bless. Have a great, great night.
Yeah. Take care.
Okay, bye bye. Well, folk, we're moving on here, and I am holding the fort down on my own. Unfortunately, I have had to do a number of things that I don't normally do, and I won't tell you why, but um, I have sometimes it's like monkey handling gun when it comes to all of this technology. But let me bring my next guest in, who's contacted us and wants to share something with us with regards to the agricultural sector. Good evening, Mr. James Paul. A
Hello,
pleasure
good
to
evening.
have you with us on the Marcia Weekes Show. And from what Marcia tells me, you're going to be talking with us this evening about a very important subject,
Yes,
one that I think should trouble every Barbadian in terms of agriculture, especially given what we have just passed through in terms of the pandemic and the challenges that we continue to have, even in respect to some of the tariff issues that America has been issuing around the world, and the need for us to develop some self sufficiency within the context of our agricultural sector. So, sir, welcome to the loyal opposition. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show. Let me just slip out of the way and give you the floor so you can share your thoughts with us.
well, I want to say that First of all, I want to thank Marcia for giving me the opportunity to speak because I think it's very important for us to put Barbados' role in terms of agriculture and to emphasize that, every country in the world today has a role in respect of the agricultural sector. I know that there are some who it will suit to diminish that role, who
Yeah.
would want to say that, for instance, some countries have more of a role than others. But as you highlighted at the beginning of your introduction, where we must recognize that food security is of absolute importance to every country, not only to some and not to others. And we have some challenges that are happening in the international marketplace in terms of, for instance, they were just, I think the FAO had just produced a study that indicates that agricultural land, in other words, land that is there for growing crops and food, basically, is coming under considerable pressure. So, and it is being reduced worldwide. So the whole question of protecting agricultural land worldwide and making sure that we have enough arable land to feed our population is becoming of increasing importance, especially when at the same time you hear other stories. For instance, there was another story in Greece in which they were saying that the amount of land available for instance, agricultural land available in Greece is declining because of some factors that happen over there. So, and even the pace at which agricultural land is being compromised, being converted into other uses, is proceeding at such a pace. And at the same time, we have a situation where we still have hunger in certain parts of the world. In fact, we have, the world's population is expanding. Barbados' population may not be expanding, but the world's population is expanding. And in the face of all of that, Barbadians must see it as a matter of public importance, a priority, national priority, to ensure that we maintain our cultivable lands in a state where, for posterity, for future generations to be able to use, and that we manage our overall land resources in a manner that ensures that our future populations will not be compromised when it comes to the question of food security. That is why sometimes you have to express tremendous concerns when you see the type of advertisements that you get in the press nowadays where, agricultural land is still going up. In other words, there are still people who buy agricultural land for speculative purposes in Barbados. And when they find themselves, they cannot manage the land. Instead of trying to find a way, if the family isn't interested, transfer it to a company, institution, or some entity that could better manage that land for agricultural purposes, they choose to cut it up and for speculative purposes. So, and then you find that land sometimes does not even benefit the ordinary Barbadian. It benefits foreigners. So these are the issues that we have in our country, that basically we have to develop the type of policies that will facilitate the continued availability of agricultural land. And this is an issue, of course, which we must deal with. And, it is for the future, because you will find yourself, and people say it, but we have to remember it is true. There will come a time when, in some cases, yes, you will have the money to purchase food, but there will be no food to purchase. And remember, one of the other issues that we must recognize that, history should teach us something. That in these situations, the powerful, those who possess power, will have little pity on those who do not have power, and they will subjugate them.
That's right. That's right.
And we must recognize that is why it is so important that we have a food security policy. And we must not buy in to the current dogma, where we seem to think that people from another country will feel that they will have some type of responsibility to us. We must first of all show responsibility to ourselves. And that is why it is important that we have a sound and practical environmental management policy that does not compromise our agricultural lands, right, to suit the whims and fancies of those who basically, in some cases, do not have the ability to manage those lands properly, or in some cases, it is just for speculative interest, where they sell it off to rich foreigners who themselves will be able to come here, live a life of comfort, but sometimes at the expense of our local Barbadian population. And that's the first point I would wish to make on this. The other, yes, go ahead.
You know, the question, well, not a question, maybe a comment, or you know, I've observed quite a bit happening around the world. I've observed quite a bit of controversy around agricultural development globally. Of course, you know, I've followed the criticisms of people like Bill Gates buying up all the property, the development of artificial food, from all the way back to artificial beef, to artificial vegetables, and artificial, all kinds of things, artificial, GMO produced, stuff produced in labs, which I hear is happening here. But I am mindful of the fact, you know, James, that for years we have benefited from what I would consider some of the best produced vegetables and agriculture in the world. As a child, I ate local carrots, local yam, local sweet potato, local sugarcane. I mean, you name it, Christophine, all these things we consumed. But when I go into the supermarket, the challenge I see that Bajans have is that based on their reduction of purchasing power, they cannot afford the locally produced agriculture products compared to the imported. Now, I hope that you might be able to give us some insight, because one of the things I have been led to understand is that in many of those countries where we import things from, the agricultural sector is significantly subsidized by the governments. And so they are able to compensate, so to speak, at affordable prices. What is happening within the context of Barbados? And I hope I don't take you too far away from your planned strategy. But what is happening in terms of Barbados when it comes to assisting farmers? And to me, you know, if you're going to give 7.06 acres of land to a bank that building concrete, there must be some capability to give some type of land to farmers to secure the food of Barbados.
All right, let me just say, I think, to be fair, and I like to be fair in these circumstances, we do have a program, an active program for the assistance of farmers in Barbados.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we must recognize, there has to be some form of discipline. And even, for instance, the distribution of agricultural land should not be based on those who are able to attract political favors. In other words, because of the fact that you are a favorite constituent of a politician, whoever that politician may be, I'm not making any accusations, whoever that politician may be, okay, or because you swear allegiance to a political party or whatever, it does not give you the right to get agricultural land. Not only that, even after receiving the land, you have a responsibility to make sure that you are able to manage the land in the national interest. And what we have sometimes is that we have a situation is that sometimes the allocation of agricultural land, and agriculture sometimes is used as a means of social, a social experiment, where you try and social empowerment, but sometimes you have to admit there must be some type of benchmarks which you establish to ensure whether or not those persons are doing the things that they need to do in order to retain possession of that land. We have had situations, and this has transcended many governments, in which persons are granted agricultural land and they make absolutely little use of them, right? Because they think it's that they want to get hold of the land, or sometimes their real objective is to have real estate that they could put some houses on. These are the kind of things. But we need to make sure that those persons we do not attract to the agricultural sector, and that we do not give them agricultural land, because at the end of the day, they are not fulfilling the national objective of trying to work to increase food production. And that is one of the points, first of all, I want to make. I also want to say, and to be fair, government this and previous governments have given some of those persons who came into agriculture just considerable benefits. I want to say, I mean, we've had a situation where farmers have been receiving, in some cases, free plowing. Okay, and now we have the lands plowed for them, get ready, and then they fall back into disuse, right? The thing is really, you have to look at sometimes, is that sometimes there has to be a measure of hand-holding to the extent where you have to actually establish it for them. As a matter of fact, you know, in other countries, such as in Brazil, Brazil's agricultural success was not based on lack of investment, because what the state did, for instance, when they developed their ability to produce grain, wheat, and those other crops, it was based on the fact that government actually provided huge subsidies to those farmers in Brazil in order to establish their farms. As a matter of fact, we have in Guyana right now. Guyana now has the ability to actually produce corn, okay, and soya. But this has, the Guyana government has used, of course, its newfound wealth in terms of oil to help these farmers in terms of procuring the necessary level of investment in order to do it. So these things come at a huge price. The point is, though, that government has prepared to actually put in that level of investment. And as you quite rightly cited, when you look at, for instance, the farmers in the United States and Europe, these farmers are the beneficiaries of huge subsidies, which are actually written into the law. So, and as a matter of fact, that is why, you know, when you look at the whole issue of the WTO, and the fact that, you know, countries are saying, many countries, especially developing countries, are saying that the rules need to be rewritten. The way in which the WTO was constructed was, first of all, to basically safeguard those existing benefits that were given to farmers in the developed countries. So you have these green boxes that you have there, in which, and in these green boxes, what you have is a situation where the subsidies that are given to American farmers, the subsidies that are given to, say, European farmers, are actually given this, they are seen to be entitled to them as a matter of right. And this is despite the fact that those subsidies give them a superior competitive advantage to the farmers like in Barbados, who do not receive the type of subsidies that these farmers do. To boot, what has happened, of course, we remember that in our countries, we don't have the type of access to funds that, say, governments in the developed countries do. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that you have to consider is that sometimes governments in, say, the Caribbean do not have the level of access to the resources of, say, those governments in the developed countries that the farmers here locally can benefit from. But that is not to say that we do not still have a system in which of what we call an incentive regime. For instance, in Barbados, we have an incentive regime where farmers who are engaged or who want to engage in certain types of agriculture, they are given some rebates. For instance, if you wanted to invest in greenhouses or whatever, there's a certain rebate system that is there. As a matter of fact, for instance, if as a farmer you wanted to buy a spray can, or you say wanted to bring land into production or whatever, there is again a certain rebate system that is there, okay, that allows the farmers to go into the Ministry of Agriculture and claim the rebate. Maybe one of the things that we need to look at is maybe the system under which it is done. And of course, there needs to be a level of transparency and to ensure that people are doing what they do. And I think that in that regard, our civil servants in the Ministry of Agriculture try to do what they can. But there is that system. Maybe the thing is that we need to recognize is that maybe it is not promoted as much in the farming system as it should be, and that is something we need to take into consideration. So there is a system of subsidies, and one of the things actually I will tell you that we need to do, because I just saw the comment from Ms. Lucinda Alime. She spoke about Barbados and Barbadians. What are we doing to help ourselves? Maybe the first order of business that we need to do is to again try to re-familiarize existing farmers in the sector as to the range and quantity of subsidies that that have available to them that they can benefit from within the Ministry of Agriculture, okay, that they need to take up on, you know, and recognize that if you go and buy a spray can for agriculture, and note it, for agricultural purposes in the Ministry of Agriculture, okay, sorry, not the Ministry of Agriculture, but to conduct agriculture, that you are entitled to a rebate on that spray can. And that is one of the things. And maybe what we need to do is to have a system in which access to those rebates can be provided very readily. And that in itself, if you invest in drip irrigation, for instance, that is something, again, that you can have put in place. So it is things like that. But I would also add that the levels of investment, therefore, and in agriculture today is great. For instance, we talk a lot about dairy production. I don't think sometimes we recognize that the amount of money that it takes to establish a dairy enterprise. And that is why, for instance, we have seen government in the past recently heavily invested in dairy production, largely because of the fact that it for an ordinary farmer is a big investment. It's a sizable investment. And again, one of the things that maybe we need to do is to look and see how our financial institutions, the existing financial institutions that we have in our country, can better assist farmers in terms of investment. Because I'll be very frank, when I look at the financial landscape in this country, it is not geared to help people within the productive sectors, including agriculture. Our financial institutions today, they are more quick to lend a person money for what we would call consumption. In other words, things that are non-sustainable, right? Than, for instance, when it comes to the whole question of lending for productive purposes, inclusive of agriculture. And this is what will make a difference in our economy, right? But you find that once you walk into a bank and you start to talk agriculture, or even manufacturing for that matter, somehow a lot of the applications seem to ring on deaf ears. And that is one of the problems, that we have this bias in which we are over investing in things like tourism. I have no qualms about saying this. We are over investing in things like tourism. We are over investing in the hospitality sector. And then the things that would actually earn the hard foreign currency that Barbados needs to basically address the issue of food security, we are not investing enough money in that particular aspect of it.
But let me ask you a question here, James, if I can, because you mentioned, and let me try to be as generous as possible with persons who might fall into the category, persons who obtain agricultural property with the intention. I want to say that the initial intention is a good one, where they want to get into the agricultural sector and so forth. And then there seems to be a change of use. But is that not controlled in terms of the change of use? If we have, and I don't know how many acres of land we have in Barbados designated to agricultural development. I don't know how much that is. But if we have land that we want to say as the Barbadian populace is for agriculture, why does the planning, what is it called now, the Planning and Development Ministry, change the land use to provide for the construction of I don't even want to say housing, because it doesn't treat the type of housing that Barbadians need, to be brutally frank. I see quite a number. I mean, I don't know. I remember coming through the roundabout by Coral Ridge, heading toward the country.
That's
not
disgusting
the city,
situation. Go ahead.
Yeah. And over on the left was a lot of that used to be sugarcane. I remember as a child, sometimes I have to confess my sins. Sometimes I would stop and break a cane out there because it was all agricultural land. Now I see roads being laid in, development going on. It looks to me, I haven't been by recently, but it looks to me like a housing development. How is it that we can facilitate that with the desperate need we have, James, of sustaining our agricultural properties, agricultural land for this aspect of food security?
Because we have weak policies. We have strong policies, but the problem is that the political will, sometimes we somehow don't know how to say no. That is the problem. We seem to want to acquiesce to those who have money and power in this country. And sometimes I don't blame them either. Because unfortunately, as Barbadians, we have a very short-sighted view as to what it takes to make an agricultural undertaking successful. We have a very short-sighted view. Because, while in retail business, in a year you're expecting to make billions, and we are very short-sighted as a people now. We think that, it's about efficiency and money. If in a short time, it ain't saying nothing. So we are interested in quick money nowadays. We are not interested in investing for the future, right? But in most agricultural projects, if you are to get it going, you need to have at least a five-year planning horizon in order to attain the levels of profitability that are even required. And one of the things I keep on saying to people when we come to agriculture that you have to recognize, you could do everything right that you are supposed to do and still fail. Why? Because sometimes there are things that happen outside of your control that determine your success. A storm could come along, bad weather. Pest can come along outside of your control completely. You have no control of that. Okay? And of course, you have the predators. All of these things. So, and the trouble with this is that when these things happen to the farmer, instead of the state stepping in and saying, look, you know what? This has happened, and we need to buffer the farmer against these risks. Mm-hmm. That farmer is left out there on their own.
Defend on their own.
Okay? Like, for instance, the issue of Spencer's with that lady out there. Like, my heart goes out to her, and I think that the Barbados Agricultural Society, we are going to reach out to her to see how she can be assisted. Okay? But the point is, so really, in situations such as that, we need to have a system in place. And I'm not suggesting, though, that we just do it like that. Because when you do that, then people will feel it is okay to go on land, take up produce that is not yours, because you know what happened at the end of the day, that person is going to benefit. But the truth is really, though, we need to start to have systems in agriculture that actually buttress these people against these type of risks and these type of happenings. That is why, for instance, we are having a discussion now, for instance, of the use of more technology in agriculture in order to prevent the amount of stealing of agricultural crops that we are seeing.
Yes, petty larceny.
The petty larceny incidences, that is something that we need to have that discussion going on, right? And of course, the whole thing is this too. I think that we're getting to the point where these conversions of these large tracts of land, I think it should be the subject of a public debate. Because, it's too, yes, these persons own the land, but the consequences of the transfer out of that land from out of agriculture to other uses are so severe in the longer term. And it has environmental consequences even for the lands and the immediate environments up there, that I think it should be the subject of future debates. That should not, to my mind, be the decision of one person there to decide, well, look, let's go ahead with it, or a bunch of technocrats sometimes, who some of them are not even in touch with the realities, okay, of the management of the environment and the issues that they need to contend with as we proceed into the future. This is, and I think we need to start to get more creative so that the public themselves, we avoid the situation where, as is happening now, the public feels aggrieved as to some of these decisions taken because there's no transparency in terms of the decisions being taken, right? And remember, every inch of agricultural land or every acre that you take out of production has consequences for future acres and the ability of farmers in the surrounding area to also conduct agriculture too at the same time. Because the environment, you can't shut off one aspect of the environment from each other. You know, I will give you something. You know, there was this, when the whole question of organic produce came in, there was this whole fad, because, you know, we like to follow the fads of the developed countries. And we were saying, oh, these things can be done in Barbados. But, you know, we found out that that is not so true. That growing, as we said, agricultural land, okay? Sorry, growing organic produce is not as simple as that. Because for you to be able to qualify that this area is really, that it is organic, you have to show that for a certain period of years, I think it's 20 years or so, that no inorganic material has gone into that area. And Barbados is only 166 square miles. And we are butting and abounding in each part. So you cannot really, for all practical intents and purposes, really grow organic produce in Barbados. So we go with these fads, and we make pretend that, you know, we can do it. We can't. What we can do, though, okay, we can create situations where, and I would say this, Barbados also has a relatively good record when it comes to the whole issue of being pesticide free in relation to production. And I would say that one of the things that in the agricultural sector that we do, we concentrate a lot on training. In that, for instance, you might not know, but every now and then within the Barbados Agriculture Society, we spend a lot of time speaking to our farmers about the responsible use of pesticides and other farm inputs, so that, for instance, you don't have a situation where there's overuse. So it is things, that is how we try to guard against these things. But generally, what I would want to say, right? And I think I just want to go to, because I noticed the question of and I refer to the question of the funding of agriculture projects, that somehow in our financial landscape, that the financial institutions do not step up to the plate, right? In the same way as was done in the past, in terms of financing productive agricultural projects. And maybe what I was thinking, maybe there needs to be a partnership between the financial institutions in the private sector and government at the same time, because in most of the developed countries, that is how it works. Where what government does is that they help the financial institutions who might say be engaged in agriculture to leverage the risk. But doing so, you do not want to absorb those persons who are going into agriculture, or the financial institutions, them from ensuring that they follow due process, ensure that they do due diligence, so that, for instance, those projects that are selected are bona fide projects that carry a high chance of success. In other words, you don't just take anybody because I want you do like what the politicians do. Oh, let's get some land for this fella because he family large and he might give me a vote. If you get where I'm coming from, okay. Therefore, they look at it that way. No, should not be the immediate qualification. What should be the immediate qualification is that you can present a project. Once you can present an agricultural project to a bank, and that project that you present can stand the test of time. It can be scrutinized, and it could be found that, you know what, if we apply normal financial principles and benchmarks that is likely to success, we should support it.
You know, James, as you're talking, you know, there are a few things running through my mind in terms of the future. And I made a couple of notes here, which I want to throw your direction just to get your thoughts on. You spoke just now about the aspect of security, managing the risk. And I remember some time ago, someone getting into business, and the central bank was one of the security, what do they call them, guarantors. The central bank was one of the guarantors of the small business starting up. The central bank provided that risk coverage, because I believe that some of the financial institutions may have a reservation in terms of the continuity and success of what a person goes to with agriculture. to profit from, because I believe one of the challenges we're facing is that people cannot see profitability from agriculture, because at the end of the day, they're still thinking not just providing a food security for the country. We would love people to be that patriotic, but they are looking to make money from it. That's why you get into business, and they may be feeling that with all the risk involved and the returns on what they're looking to invest and so on, it may not be viable. And then the last aspect I wanted to throw your direction has to do with the future and how agriculture fits into our educational system to help to develop a perspective within our growing don't let me say population, growing generation. From as early as primary school. I remember in primary school how I used to put and I'm sure you remember this. We used to put the blotting paper, you remember, in the glass with the water with the seed down the side.
That's right. That's right.
And
That's
we
right.
started growing. I remember when I was going to school with my mother at Boscobel School, we had to plant little gardens in the back of the school. And I learned a few things about agriculture. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination an agriculturist today, but those were things that helped me to appreciate a lot of where we are today in terms of our food security. And I'm just wondering if there should not be some kind of a synergy between the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Education in order to develop future entrepreneurs, particularly in the agricultural sector.
Well, I would say this. Yes, I think in a sense, the role of the schools in terms of getting an appreciation of agriculture on the part of young people cannot be underestimated. And we don't recognize sometimes how impressionable children are. Very, very, very impressionable. And what it says is that you can actually develop a generation much more open to doing things in agriculture at a very young stage in their lives. If we focus a lot more on us, and we have teachers in this, and I will tell you this, I visited a number of schools throughout the country. And I will say to you that we have some wonderful teachers in our schools who are very interested in promoting agriculture. They do. And sometimes even in deference to sometimes the social setting and whatever, they do. And there's a level of enthusiasm that is there in terms of the promotion of that agriculture. Right?
Yeah.
So and for instance, even I want to go back to AgriFest a bit that we hold every year in February, which I hope again that we'll be able to continue that for some time. That in itself as an activity has helped to generate tremendous interest on the part of our young people in terms of the kind of projects that they generated and the level of participation that we see from them. So we have to focus on our schools and getting the right message over to our young people at a very early age. Because I keep on hearing the talk about the whole question of agriculture and in the past its association with slavery. But I want to say in a very simple way, I was never a slave. My mother was never a slave.
Me neither.
She was a very proud, poor, but independent woman. I saw with my father. Right? And the people I see around me, they were never slaves. And I find that somehow when we want to talk about agriculture, we want to bring the past in. It is not about the past anymore. It is about now.
And the future.
That is what it's about.
Yeah.
And we have to manage agriculture in that particular setting, talking about now and the future. And we know what the mandates are now. The mandates are now that if we are to safeguard our food security as we go into the future, that we have to teach our population to form an appreciation of agriculture and to understand the role that they have to play at a very early age in ensuring that we achieve success in the agricultural sector. And it has to begin in the schools. And that is why, for instance, the education program, the mindsets that we have. Okay, very, very important that we reach out to our young people in those schools, because I will tell you, even now, there are young people who are involved in AgriFest now. Extremely good exhibitionists, and as a matter of fact, there's a young people who they're running farms now. You know where they started? In the school. That Ferdinand, that is where they started, in the schools, right? Right? And they came through our program. The young people would tell you that they used to come to AgriFest when they're young. I remember a young lady, I think she still works at William. No, I don't think I'm not sure. And you know, people you used to come to AgriFest and was fascinated by the fact that here's this young lady, but it started in the school. That is where it started. So let us not try to diminish the importance of the school, the educational system, right? But what we need to do, and this is the other issue I have. Whenever we speak about these things, you get these people who like to do these studies and all kind of stuff. Instead of listening to the teachers in the school, the people who actually had the contact point with the students, to find out what their ideas are and help them to implement those ideas, because that is one of the issues that we have today in our society. That every time you come up with an idea, instead of pushing money behind the people who have the ideas, that is not where the money goes, you know. The money goes to some, I don't want to call them con artists, but they consultants in some way, okay, who want to study the ideas that the people have and then make a pronouncement on it. That is not what it's about, right? Let us support the people on the ground who have the ideas, who can see something where they can make an intervention in a very practical way, influence young minds, and put the money behind it. That's what we need to do, and that is the approach that we take.
You know, one of the things that ran through my mind just now, and I don't know if it was done, or if it's being done, or if it was in a plan or anything of the sort, but I just dropped it down here in my pad, about schools adopting, and I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, but schools adopting a agricultural property, or a segment of agriculture for those students who have an interest in agriculture, to actually grow, to grow produce on that property, that could be a benefit to them, but at the same time they're contributing to the agricultural development in the country. You know, is that something that we could look at, or is it something that's been done before, or anything of that nature?
But I don't know if a school can be there to manage a property and agricultural property in the same way. But what I will say to you is that there's a school in the area of St. George, St. Philip, up by Grant. That's by the King George V Park. I cannot remember the name of the school, so they must forgive me if I can't remember the name of the school. And that school, they have an area up there. If I remember, they used to have an area, and there's another one in St. Philip that I went to last year, where they have a wonderful agricultural land right there. And that land, right? I must praise the headmaster who was there. I don't know if he's still there, for the fact that headmaster manages that, and he sees it as his business to try to make sure he manages it properly for his students. So what you need, at least, it doesn't necessarily have to be a farm, but at least some type of agriculture can be conducted in school environments, where it could represent a learning tool for those students who happen to be interested in agriculture. That is what we need, right?
So,
and that approach can work.
So that a portion of the property, just, I mean, for argument's sake, it's just ideas running through my mind, that because you want to look toward the future too. You know, you don't just want to be dealing with what's happening here, but we're going to be long gone, and there are going to be children growing up into the adults taking on the responsibilities that we currently have. And I was just wondering, if in the future, when they're looking to to plant schools in different facilities and different areas and so on, if they could consider a portion of the property being used for the school for that purpose. You know what I'm saying?
What I
Agricultural
think would be
development.
nice though
Yeah.
is I think that in every area that you have a school in Barbados, there are farmers. And what I've seen, for instance, I know that there are some farmers that the BS have that have been very, very, very cooperative in terms of when, for instance, schools call and they ask, how can we, can we, that is right. Pedro Jama just gave me a hill skiing school. He said, Philip, but yes, right? Listen, they have a wonderful land up there. I would tell you, right? And I am sure, I really praise that headmaster. I hope he's still there and it is continuing. Okay? Right? And that is something that should continue. Okay? But what we need to do is to have farmers working with the schools in the area too. That would help because, agricultural land is becoming so valuable. It will soon become very valuable. That we need to concentrate on the commercial production so that when children go to farms now, they can actually see what it is like to operate a commercial operation. And that is what we want to show children, that you can actually make, because I find that too many of the agricultural endeavors, okay, that we have now, it's like sometimes you give people the impression, oh, you don't have to make money. But that's agriculture is a business. And I would say to you, I know of a gentleman, he's died now. He is, and I'm sure the family will mind me calling his name, is Mr. Gill, who he actually established Chicken Stop in St. George, Sorton, St. George. Andrew Gill, he's died now. But his sons are carrying on the enterprise now, right? Where they have some land there where they operate a chicken operation. Plus, they have a field there where they grow crops, okay? He financed the university education of his children out of that land. And he didn't have to go to the state and beg them for anything, but he did it out of that land. But it shows you the possibilities that exist with good management, how you can make an agricultural undertaking a successful enterprise. And that is what we should be focusing, because I really think that the answer to getting children more interested in agriculture is by showing them that, you know what, yes, there is everything that you do is hard work. And I don't think that we should be continue be saying or fooling up people, oh, technology is going to mean that you don't have to work too hard. That is not true. As a matter of fact, as you know, sir, the rich work harder than us. Okay?
It's just that they work smarter.
And they work smart, of course, but they work. Okay? Right?
Oh yes, they do. Oh yes.
But they work hard, right? And
yes.
I think really that what we need to show our young people, right, that if they work and apply the scientific principles that need to be applied in agriculture, if they have the correct management methods, that they can be successful. And that is what is important. But again, I want to emphasize that we need to support those initiatives that we have in our schools, giving them the type of resources that they need, right? To do the kind of things that they need to do with the students to generate the interest that's required for them to be interested in the sector.
Well, James, look, I really want to thank you for coming on the show tonight. We have just a few more minutes left, about half an hour. We were expecting to have a gentleman from Dominica to address the situation in Dominica that is existing at current. I have received a communique which I've been asked to read on the Marcia Weekes Show, which I'm going to do at this time. But this is generally the time that we would be open to phone calls and so on. But unfortunately, the system is not up and operational for us to do that. So what we're going to ask you to do is to put your comments, and I do mean your questions and substantive comments, okay? Try not to be too politicized, because we have the issues of road repairs in St. Joseph, and I dare say road repairs around the entire country. But obviously in places like St. Joseph, St. Andrew, they become considerably more critical because of the topography of the area. And then, of course, we have had concerns raised with regards to the repurposing of Harrison's Point. And I still have both of the presenters in the green room. I'm going to bring them into the studio if it's okay with me to do that, for me to do that, so that we can look at some of the comments coming in, and maybe depending on the comment, we can address the comment that is there. But before I do that, I want to read the press release that has been sent to us by the United Workers' Party of Dominica, whose political leader is Mr. Thompson Fontaine, PhD. And we've been sent this because, of course, Marcia did a visit to Dominica, quite an eye opener. And apparently, they are suffering from some similar maladies that we're experiencing here in Barbados, which is no surprise to me by virtue of association. But I've been asked to read this, so permit me to take a couple of minutes just to do this, and then we'll come back and pay attention to some of the comments. So loyal opposition, I want you to put your comments in or your question into the chat, and we'll, to any of the panelists. Rose will be back with us, Victor will be back with us, and of course, Mr. James Paul is here with us now. James, I don't know. I hope I've not put you on the spot in terms of time.
No problem.
Do you have the time to stay with us to the end?
Yes,
Just have another 30
so
minutes.
it is
Okay,
okay.
great. Okay, great. All right, so just let me read this press release. The United Workers' Party calls for measures to tackle the rise of gun violence in Dominica. Fellow Dominicans, first, it is with a heavy heart that I address you today on the alarming rise in gun violence that has shaken our beloved nation. To the families who have lost loved ones, to the communities living in fear, and to every citizen touched by this tragedy, I, on behalf of the United Workers' Party, Team Dominica, extends deepest condolences and unwavering solidarity. No family should endure the pain of losing a loved one to senseless violence, and no child should grow up in the shadow of fear. Your grief is our grief, and your call for safety and justice is our shared mission. Secondly, this surge in gun violence is a stark reminder of the urgent challenges we face as a nation. While we mourn, we must also act with resolve to address the root causes fueling this crisis. Too many of our young people are caught in a cycle of despair. Here, economic hardships and lack of opportunity leave them vulnerable to the lure of violence. As a nation, we must do better for our youth. They are our future, and their potential must be nurtured, not lost to the streets. Thirdly, as a party in the opposition, we call for a comprehensive approach to tackle this crisis and bring an immediate end to the pain and suffering which have been caused. We must prioritize creating a vibrant economic environment that offers our young people meaningful opportunities for gainful employment. By investing in education, skills training, and job creation, we can empower our youth to bring brighter futures, steering them away from the path of violence. We need policies that foster hope, provide purpose, and ensure that every young Dominican has a stake in our nation's progress and development. Fourthly, we also urge the government to strengthen community policing, enhance public safety measures, and work collaboratively with all stakeholders to address the proliferation of illegal firearms. Violence thrives where opportunity falters, and we cannot afford to delay action. Fifth and finally, to the families grieving, we see you, we hear you, and we stand with you. Let us unite as a nation to honor those we have lost by building a safer, more prosperous Dominica for all. Together, we can forge a future where our youth choose hope over harm and where every citizen can live without fear. Mr. Thomas Fontaine, political leader of the UWP. As I read that, I almost thought that they could be living in Barbados. As a matter of fact, as we were on the show here tonight, I received another message concerning another criminal activity that just occurred this evening. And it is becoming increasingly troubling. And I will share this with you. A taxi man not long ago got robbed by the UWI. The robbers ran through a track. Many of the tracks that lead out and to UWI, police are involved and are combing the area. That is as we were on here tonight. And, as we have looked over the past few days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we have had, and I would call it an introduction of a strange addition to our criminal and crime activity in Barbados, and that is carjackings and now motorcycle jackings. Because I watched a video the other night where a young man seated in a gas station with all of the people around had his motorcycle taken from him at gunpoint. And I am going to advocate to you. I can't sit here and tell you get a gun because I don't know what is involved in that. I don't know if pepper spray is available in the country legally, but I do know insecticides are. And I have learned that insecticides are an exceptional weapon to use within the context of protecting yourself. So I really want to encourage you, apart from prayer, because some people, James and Victor and Rose, think that because I'm a pastor, there's certain things I should not say. But I think I remember my brother James. James, this would not be you. This is the other one in the Bible. I think I remember him saying, "You say you have faith? Well, then show me your faith by your works." And so I believe that there is a role that we have. I think there's another verse that treats to if the watchman watches without God, he watches in vain. But he is still a watchman that watches. He doesn't abdicate his responsibility. So I want to recommend that you do what is necessary to keep you safe and pay attention to your surroundings. Be careful when you exit your supermarkets and your price marts and cost you less. Pay attention to what is going on around you. Pay attention to the people that are exiting with you. Watch when you're returning home. If vehicles appear to be following you when you turn into your gap, make sure that if there's somebody that turns into your gap, you can stick the vehicle in reverse and run them out of your gap, even if it's better to have to repair the vehicle than to have to try to fix your life. And so I've always taught my children to travel at night with all of your doors locked, keep on highly trafficked roads, and even if the task force try to stop you, if you don't recognize them, drive to a place with a lot of people before you stop to engage anybody. All right. So I think that would be some reasonably good words of advice. So, gentlemen and lady, I'm looking in the comments to see if I see a couple of comments here. There's one by Justin James. Justin says, "We depend on large-scale agricultural means for our total production. All the small deposits of food can form a bundle in our count." Your thoughts?
You know, earlier I think too they had a comment that said that no, what can we do individually, and
Yes.
how we spoke about the fact that it can be expensive in terms of producing local food. Look, you look at sweet potatoes. For the last how many years that I know, 20, 30 years, sweet potatoes have gone from sometimes $1 a pound up to $5 a pound, $6 a pound. But you know what all dependent was? Availability. Every single agricultural commodity that we have had, they have stayed within a certain range of prices. And I really believe that it sounds a good narrative, but it is not true to say that local agricultural production is expensive in terms of the pricing that farmers put on the market. It is just not, because what we don't understand is that a lot of it has to do with scarcity and scarcity and abundance, right? And that is what and the prices have fluctuated in that range for most agricultural products that we can think of today. What has been the problem is that we have not placed enough emphasis on producing enough agricultural products. We have allowed the lands to fall into misuse, and we have allowed the lands to be mismanaged. That is what has happened. And I noticed Mr. Tell talk about the question of extension officers. Look, the point is though, really, we can have 1,000 extension officers, but if they are not producing, that is the fundamental thing. Because I will tell you, right, we can eat well in this country if we would grow the amount of breadfruit, stop taking the land that we have available to us and putting it in parks and all kind of nonsense, right? Use it for food production, and you will see that the prices somehow will come down. You know, I'm glad you mentioned Dominica, because I know a past prime minister used to say, "Oh, you know, Dominica has so much fruits there that, you know, when we get into island trade, that they'll be able to supply Barbados with this and that." But do you know something? We don't understand this thing about agriculture, you know, because what we don't know is that every single country in the region has the same problem. Because as much food as Guyana, we think has to produce, they have their challenges in supplying their own population, right? All I'm saying is that, look, we can do things in this country, okay, to actually produce more food, and in that way the price will be lower. And not only that, we become more efficient, because that's the other thing. You have to look at the yields. We can start to improve the yields. Right now, for instance, when you look at the sugar crops, I have to say, I mean, you take it over 20,000 tons to produce 1,000 tons of sugar. It's so ridiculous. It's so unfortunate, right? All I'm saying is this, that we need to take agriculture seriously and do what is necessary in order to achieve the objectives that we have. It can be achieved, sir.
Question,
You know,
Dr. Ferdinand.
yes.
Yeah, I want to pose a matter of concern to James Paul. Recently, I saw an extract from on the Barbados Today, dealing, I think, with Spencer's and Christchurch, predial larceny.
Yes.
And that lady, man, I mean, Mr. Paul, it really hurt my heart to hear how that lady spoke. Every single thing she planted, some person came and reaped. Here is a person who has taken to heart agricultural production in Barbados. She's gone all out to produce. And we still have a significant problem with predial larceny. We're here encouraging people to get involved, to plant, to produce. But here is this lady who's producing at the best for us to have good quality food to eat. What are the consequences? What are the consequences when she can ask herself, how does she pay her bills when everything she plants
It's gone.
predial larceny? How could you
Miss
respond to that now?
James did actually mention that a little earlier when he was speaking. He didn't go into a lot of detail with regards to it, but if I could just throw in my 2 cents worth, I think he mentioned the aspects of, and you can correct me, James, of using technology to address, or some form of technology to address this, because I'm sure that this is one of the challenges farmers overseas have had. I don't think it's peculiar or unique to Barbados. I think it would have been experienced in some of the more developed countries, and I think it would be of value for us to learn the lessons from them to see how they went about handling it. But James, let you respond to that.
Well, that is correct. But I would just want to say this, you know, one of the things that we need to highlight these incidents of pre-RC when it happens more. In the same way that we highlight these things, we need to highlight them, because I know there are some people who like to suppress these things, but sometimes you begin to appreciate the challenge that exists in agriculture. And I will say this, that is one lady or one farmer who has come forward and reported it. And for her, there are probably 10 others who have experienced incidents of crop theft, livestock theft, input supply theft, and they have said nothing, right? So we do not, in terms of trying to comprehend the scale of the problem that farmers face, we now have to try to comprehend it because it is a significant issue, and it's a significant disincentive to people wanting to come into agriculture. But that's besides that. But beyond that, as Ferdinand was saying, I think that we need to start to work with our farmers to show them, okay, what are the technology that we can implement in order to try to reduce it. Because, for instance, right now we have we can use cameras. There are different types of technology that is coming down that we can actually use. But you see, in order to do it, you have to actually arrange the spacing on farms in a particular way. So it's like people don't understand. When you build something in agriculture, you have to build it with technology in mind, the use of technology. As a matter of fact, we were talking about the whole question. I just reverted something in agriculture, pig farming. Pig farming now is becoming extremely technological. So when you construct a pig farm today, you're doing it from the point of view of using technology, and the way in which you do it can actually facilitate that technology that you want to put in place, or you can make it more difficult. So these are the type of things that we need to start to do. But I do agree with you. Look, it is really sad, and I think again, right, that I am not satisfied that the society as a whole is showing the level of intolerance. But that needs to happen. But you just talked about the question of Dominica and what is happening in that society there. And we look at what's happening in Barbados today. It is something that is worrying, and we need to have a no-nonsense policy to criminality in this country. And I want to say it also starts in the schools.
Yeah,
that we need to have strong messaging.
And this is where actually I want to get Rose to jump in, because Rose has been an educator for many years, and the thought running through my mind is that people, you're going to have crime no matter what you do. We acknowledge that, we get it, we get that. But I believe when people have opportunity, especially young people, when they have opportunity of employment that is productive for them. Don't let me just say employment that is productive, because they have dreams, they have things they want to accomplish. Give you grant, we have developed such a materialistic society that we go after all these designer shoes and designer this and designer that, and those take significant portions of funding to be able to buy them. But I really believe that one of the things that could help reduce that, Victor, would be job opportunities for people to go to work, where they don't have to resort. Not that everybody's going to do that. We get it. Everybody's not going to do it. But by the same token, if they can see something viable for them in terms of work, even in terms of technological, I mean, some of these same young people who might resort to this kind of thing, James, may have passed through a process. I don't know if they have or not, but they may have passed through a process of technology that could contribute positively to the entire thing. Because I've observed that young people these days, I mean, I don't even know to run this foolish thing here called what? StreamYard. But my little 5-year-old daughter would come in here and show me how to do this thing in the bottom of an eyelid. So I think that one of the things that government needs to address, I hear them talk about level of unemployment being down, but when I drive around this country, I don't see that. I don't know where they're getting this statistical information from. But Rose, I don't know if you would have heard some of the comments that myself and James were chatting about earlier. With regards to what I'm getting some feedback from you.
Sorry.
That before. You might have to turn off your mic. I mean, your speaker. Great.
It's better now?
Yeah. I make sure you keep the mic up by your mouth and not under your neck. All right. We were talking about the aspect of school involvement in agriculture. Some of the comments that were placed in the chat, if I can run back up and look at some of them, they talked about the 4-H club and how we used to have People, schools where agricultural gardens were done and that kind of thing. Um, and of course, as I asked of Mr. Paul, the aspect of the future, because we can look at things now, but I believe there's going to come a time when James, you, me, and Victor will no longer be here. Whether that is through what we religiously believe or whether it is through an act of what the insurance company call an act of God. We're not going to be here forever, and we're going to have children and grandchildren and great grandchildren taking over a lot of what we would have left behind. What are your thoughts in terms of how the educational system can be utilized to bring a greater sense of value to this area? Because I really feel that, James, that people don't see agriculture as valuable. They just don't see it as a viable option for making money. What are your thoughts there, Rose?
Um, Thank you again, and it was really interesting backstage listening to the conversation and to hear Mr. Paul's passion for agriculture. It has always been his passion, and he seeks to communicate it to us. Um, I've grown up in the same era at primary school where we had that garden at school, and every Tom, Dick, Harry, and Mary and Jane had to be out there when it was your class's turn to go out and do it. So you weren't too fair skinned, too dark skinned. You weren't wearing shoes or barefoot. Every man
Every
Jack
man that
had
had to
to
be
be
out
out
there.
there.
But, yes.
And every woman Jane had to be out there. And it instills something in you because I don't know too if I came from a rural village, a rural area, but it extended to home. So never mind how small your house plot was. You know when you go home, you plant that pigeon pea, bonivis, um, a little sweet potato, spinach, whatever for self-sufficiency. But then I found too that as many of us went on to secondary school, some schools perceived to be better than others, that we drifted away from that kind of secondary schools did not continue or sustain what would have been developed or inculcated at primary school. And so I think that schools need to take a greater responsibility, just like how we're making technology fun, make
Yes.
agriculture fun too.
Yes.
Not
Absolutely.
it's a hot sun task. Not as Mr. Bob was saying that that you can't make money from it. But make it exciting, make it fun. And I want to thank Mr. Paul for introducing um, the
Agrofest?
agrofest.
Yes.
And I know, and he can correct me, I know that um, in recent times there was a holiday clash. Schools finish um, before or around the time that Agrofest would be hosted, and so I am wondering what is the relationship in recent times between the Ministry of Education and the ministry and your event. um, because that was one way of getting the children to see agriculture in a fun way with the livestock, with the plants, with the various sectors within agriculture. And it could have stimulated even, you remember Mr. Victor and Pastor 32 when there used to be um the exhibition, and I remember at the livestock station in St. Philip where I used to carry as a teacher. We used to carry the children to the a livestock exhibition, an exhibition in St. Philip. I don't know if not the one in Queen's Park. There used to be one in St. Philip.
The
And the
home,
children,
the
pardon
home,
me?
was at the home agricultural station.
Yes, yes, yes. And as a teacher, we used to prepare the children, let them know what they were going to see. And when they came back, we used to have our own competitions, the wrote compositions, we had comprehension. Everything was around that event. And so, Mr. Paul, how what is your relationship with the Ministry of Education in terms of AgroFest? Do they
Let,
partner with you?
well, no, not really. But what I will say is that for next year, at least, as I said, the dates are Agrofest next year are February 28th to the 1st of March. And I am so pleased that this year, that this time, the midterm break does not fall on that weekend.
Okay.
So at least I think hopefully I don't know if they listen to my beggings and my supplications in the past. So we will have now, children should be able to at least have the benefit of a school day accompanied by their teachers next year in order to attend AgroFest. And I think that what of course we are going to do even from now, though, when many schools come back out in September, we have to start. I really want to start to engage the schools, of course, in the permission of the Ministry of Education, in projects, because one of the things we want to show them is, and we used to do that in the past too when we had first come with AgroFest. The schools used to come up with wonderful projects that they exhibited at the event. When we got into what we call it, COVID really disrupted a lot of that. So we now have to get back there. But I know that we have the level of enthusiasm among the teachers, especially at those schools, that I am telling you, we're going to see some fantastic exhibits as we go into next year.
While you were asking that question, um, Rose, I wonder how much synergy. I mean, James, you were in government at one point. I think you were a minister at
No,
one
no,
point.
I was never minister. I was always a
You were
backbencher.
not a minister backbencher. Okay, well, we'll move you up front in the next one. Um, but I wonder how much synergy there is between the different ministries. Someone was raised the question. If I could find it, I would put it up. But someone raised the comment about a collaboration between the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Tourism.
Yes.
And you wonder if you hear about a government, but it's like there are 20 something individual governments, where there doesn't seem to be that, we talk about cabinet, but I wonder when people meet at cabinet, if they're apart from discussing stupid ideas, which clearly we are seeing coming forth, do you ever engage how ministries can collaborate with one another to advance the country's interests? And I just want to leave that out there. But how many of you remember how the churches used to hold was it Thanksgiving, Rose, Victor?
Harvest. Harvest.
Harvest,
Harvest.
harvest.
Thank you. Do you all remember how churches used? And I was an Anglican going to the Anglican church then. You all remember how the churches used to look
Mhm.
for
Yes,
harvest?
yes, yes,
And
yes.
Wonderful.
that was one of the things that stimulated me to get involved because I saw the bananas and the edos and the yams and the coconuts and all these things all over the church. I don't know when last we have ever seen anything like that. I don't know if it's still done. I don't attend Anglican churches at the moment. I don't know if it's still done. Maybe someone in the chat can advise us on that. But those were times that I felt stirred our interest as children, growing up. That was something, to be honest, that every year I look forward to, because I look forward to the end of the service because at the end of the service, I was collecting all the bananas and the apples and all those kind of things to take home.
I want to say something to
Yeah,
Paul before we wind up.
go ahead.
I went to carry a coup, a few months ago to help repair the roofs down there after the hurricane. And I must say, Mr. Paul, that Carrico, I saw no monkeys. The farmers said there are no monkeys. On top of the roofs, and I'm looking down, I'm seeing watermelons galore, the corns galore. I haven't been informed about any prairie larceny there. So, I mean, not to say there's none. But, Mr. Paul, there are no monkeys. None. In Carriacou. But when we come to Barbados, are we gonna continue to boost tourism by protecting the monkeys, or are we gonna destroy these monkeys before they destroy us? Because we are on that path now. And I'm in St. Joseph, Mr. Thing, I'm in St. Joseph. They come across my roofs. The mango's gone, the apple's gone, the soursop gone, everything gone. Before they destroy us, Mr. Paul, we have to destroy them. I'm being frank. I don't want to be around the bush and call for the technological invention. No, we got to get rid of them, or they'll get rid of us.
But then you have the animal activists coming at you.
Listen, hold on, Freddie.
Yeah.
Listen, the point is this. We have allowed every sort of excuse for these things. These monkeys are a menace, and they need somehow to be, the population needs to be considerably reduced. We need to stop using these things, this talk about the animal activists, as an excuse. If it is our determination as a country, that agriculture is important, and it is our determination that it is important, we should have no problem at all then getting rid of these animals, because they are a menace. And not only that, at the same time, they are costing us money. That is the problem that we don't
millions of dollars.
And quality food.
And yet we sit back in the same breath. I'm talking about food security and how difficult it is, and what people don't want to get into farming. When we, as a people, right, are making it difficult for the same farmers, talking about Kadir. We are talking to one side of our mouth, on the other side we're doing something else. We and politicians as a whole need to stop it. Let us make a firm stance. We need to have a serious cull of the monkey population in this country. We need to start to go after them in a serious way. We know where these monkeys are, and the hunters know where they are. But you know what? Sometimes I understand that sometimes they in places where there are populations, so you have to be careful how you're using your guns. Okay? But the point is really, I think you even have to go after them in the night. Go after them in the caves and the areas where they are and shoot these things, because at the end of the day, right, it is severely restricting agricultural production, especially in vegetable and food crops in this country, right, and preventing people from getting the type of nutrition that they need. And that is why, again, I must add, why agricultural commodities are so expensive. So,
as we are at the end of the show. So I'm going to take your final closing comments from everyone. But I just want to say, Grand Cayman, James, and Victor had this problem with the iguanas. The iguanas were multiplying in Grand Cayman at one heck of a rate. I mean, everywhere you turn, if you were driving on the streets, you had to avoid iguanas. And the government made a decision and began to pay people for killing them.
Of course.
That's what they did. And of course, they didn't want them completely eradicated, but it certainly resulted in a dramatic decline in the population of iguanas in Grand Cayman. Give you grant, it's not a what you call these dishes again, Rose. These fancy dishes. What was the name for them? Um, oh dear me, it slips me now. But it's not a delicacy. That's the word. It's not a delicacy in Grand Cayman. There may be other countries, for that matter, in the Caribbean, where there could be delicacies. Because I participated in mountain chicken in Dominica. I only discovered after I finished eating the sweetness of the leg and everything what it was.
Oh dear.
My sister went through that, I think, in Puerto Rico at one time when they did the was it carry was the athletic sports there again. And when they brought, she asked what it was, and they brought it to the table for her to see. She brought everything right back up on the table. But the reality is we do have to do something with them. Somebody in the chat was asking about exporting them. They talk about monkey meat sold in China. There was somebody else that talked about finding a market in Asia. It could become an export commodity, it could very well be, because there are people all over the world that take these animals in as pets, and it can be done. I have a neighbor who every now and again I hear a couple of gunshots because I got a fight for my mangoes too. But he has a couple of baby ones and young ones caged there, that play with the kids and so forth, that they're raised there. So it's a possibility that we can capture them and export them. I mean, I don't know if any of these things have ever been engaged, entertained, thought about, explored. I don't know. But it would be interesting. But it would reduce the population. No question about that. You were saying something, James?
Oh, Ferdinand, we need to get rid of them. Look,
one way or the other.
Look, listen. We play around with all kind of fancy notions. The point is, though, really, let us understand. How can we say we are serious as a country when we are saying in the same breath that we need to improve agricultural production? We want to see reduction in food prices for commodities. When we are engaging a pest, we are facilitating a pest that is causing the problem. That is the reason why people are not planting as much as they are accustomed to planting, because these animals are vicious and they are total pests. Okay, get rid of them, right? And by whatever means necessary, get rid of them, because at the end of the day, at least then, our people will be able to grow food that they can eat. They, of course, will be able to contribute more to the national economy of this country, right? And at the same time, we will still get our tourists, because I'm sure there are other things that tourists come here to see, other than the pests and these monkeys, right? And we'll be, and our people will not have to go through this nonsense. Get rid of them.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, James. I'm going to leave the lady for last, Victor. Your closing comments. I mean, you've touched on a number of things tonight as well, especially the roads. But I think that's a national crisis.
Well, fair enough, but we got to protect our buses. But I want to kill all these monkeys, every single one of them, and make show for the dogs. That's what I want to do. Kill every single monkey in Barbados, every single one in Barbados, and make show for the dogs. The dogs don't destroy agriculture. Most of them are either pets or they protect us. So we will use the monkey meat and make dog chow. Every one of them. Kill all of them. That's my recommendation.
And then, of course, the only problem we have after we've done that is that we got the human monkeys to deal with. So we got to put laws in place.
But that would not be as
whatever you do, don't kill the human monkeys. Okay. Rose, your closing comments, my dear. Oh, dear.
Yeah.
And I thank you. I'll start on the monkey thing. I live with a degree of anxiety with these monkeys where we used to live before, just on the outskirts in St. Michael, and now here in the country. And one day was at the kitchen sink, and apparently there was a monkey with his lips pressed against the window. And my husband said, had I looked up and seen that monkey, I would have
You're,
passed out.
you're a rude
And the
monkey.
monkey dared to dare him, pressing his lips on the window at his wife. And so too, I have seen them destroying the fruits in my neighborhood. And we are looking at ways how can we plant and become self-sufficient in some ways with all these terrors called monkeys, especially that one that has some kind of fixation, fascination with me. I, I wish you all the best and great
Thank you.
success, Mr. Paul,
Thank you.
with engaging and encouraging young people to get involved in agriculture of all form to ensure food security, because it seems as though this generation, these people that are here now governing and making policies and decisions are not as serious as they should on food security. And I close again reminding St. Lucie to lobby your MP and ask him to secure some work for you on that project that's going on and that has replaced that this hospital has made room for their accommodation. And I encourage us all to keep an eye on what's happening, keep our ears open, and don't allow masking tape to come across our mouths to prevent us from being a voice of advocacy and encouragement for good governance.
Thank you so
That's
very
not only
much
for St. Lucie, but for
for the whole
the
country.
island at large.
Thank you so very much. And again, let me end by just asking all of you to be careful out there, even during the day. Be vigilant, keep your eyes open, be careful when you're leaving your supermarkets. I understand they're now putting some bottles or something like that on your car tires, and when you reach down to to check and see what's going on, they attack you and so forth. And try wherever possible to not be alone, wherever possible, not to be alone. Keep your eyes open when you're returning home. Keep an eye on what vehicles follow you. Stay on highly trafficked roads so that in the event something does happen, if you have a breakdown or something like that, you know that you're relatively safe. These are the kind of things that we want to ask you to be very careful with. So we want to thank all of you that have been with us tonight. Thank you, James, for coming in. Thank you, Victor, as well. And Rose, we unfortunately could not have the gentleman in from Dominica. And we hope we will be able to get him in at another show. And we are appreciative of all that you have contributed. To those of you in the loyal opposition, thank you for being here with us tonight. Without you, we could not have had the Marcia Weekes Show. Unfortunately, I don't have Colin Spencer's song to end with. Unfortunately, Dave and Marcia have been taken away in terms of attending to a very serious matter. They're fine. It's just so that no one is worried about them. But in terms of some matters that they have had to address, and so I have lost my technological expert. And being, I am not one of those monkeys, Victor, that you are going to kill. All right, but in my context, I would be a monkey handling gun. So, you okay? So I am just going to end the show. I don't even know what they have. Let me see if I can find something here, because they did have a couple of other songs, but I don't know how to get into all of these things, and Dave won't teach me. So I don't know. This is one that we haven't played. Oh, this one might relate, Victor. This one is
Yeah.
monkey talk. Let me
I'm
put
not
this.
interested in
Let me
prostituting
put
nobody. I
this
tell
up
you
and,
this
and, and let me
already. I want
see
money.
how do you
Say
do
a
this,
what?
man?
Money.
Whoa!
Money.
Yo!
I want money.
Man, she really said that for you?
Money. I'm not interested in prostituting nobody. I want money.
Whoa!
Money.
Whoa!
Money. Money. Money.
Yo!
Money.
You hear that?
Money.
She want money, yeah?
I want money. I want money.
You hear that? She want money, yeah?
I'm not interested in prostituting nobody. I tell you this already. I want money. Money. I want money.
Boy, she only care about the money. Bye, girl. Bye.
You see why I told that word now you're expert, man.
Good night,
You're
all.
muted, man. You're muted,
It's
you're
all
muted,
about
you're
monkey.
muted.
Oh my goodness. God bless, guy. Thank you
Yeah,
so
Good
much
take
for
night,
being
care.
on
all.
the show.
Good
Good
night.
night, and good night,
Take
loyal
care.
opposition.
Be safe. Be good.
Okay.
Thank
Bye
you
bye.
so much. God bless. Bye bye.
Okay.